On this November Saturday, football for breakfast in Ames, Iowa. Oklahoma comes to town with much on the line. National title dreams were dashed with a September loss to Kansas State and last week's defeat against Notre Dame. But for prolific quarterback Landry Jones and his Sooners, a BCS Bowl is still in sight. Standing in the way, an Iowa State team with a knack for the upset. Welcome to college football, presented by Kay Jewelers. Iowa State has upset 4 top 25 teams since 2010. Today, the Cyclones look to add to that resume against number 12, Oklahoma. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Janine Edwards will join us shortly. After losses to the number 2 and the number 3 team in the country, Oklahoma's national title hopes are gone. But they still think they can get to a BCS bowl game. To do that, they have to take care of business here at Iowa State. And this is not the walkover it used to be.
If you looked up trap game, if there was a definition of cliches, this would be it. Tough loss at home to a very good Notre Dame team. And they come to Iowa State to play a team that can beat them. So Bob Stoops all week took to the airwaves, and he was kind of edgy. He really defended his team, said nothing's missing, and he defended his quarterback, Landry Jones, and said those people watching who are putting him down are ignorant about football. And around the state, people were saying, well, this is part of the conversation. Jones did not play well against Kansas State. He's a guy expected to be an NFL high draft pick, played well against Notre Dame, but this is an Iowa State team that can play defense. So let's see if he can do it after that emotional loss to Notre Dame.
Well, when was the last time Oklahoma lost to Iowa State here in Ames? I'll give you a hint. Gasoline was 31 cents a gallon. It was 1960. But if their quarterback plays the way he did last week, they could write a new page in their history book.
And Steele Jantz last week before Baylor may have ended up the week on 3rd string because they actually opened up the quarterback competition. Jantz had been the starter earlier in the year, a guy with a lot of ability, but he will throw the ball away and make some mistakes, but he won the job. Played lights out last week against Baylor. Little different test against Oklahoma's defense today, though.
Janine Edwards has always worked the sidelines for us. She has more on Iowa State. Janine?
Well, Mike, for the first time in school history, crowds of more than 50,000 are filling Jack Trice Stadium. In fact, it's 13 games in a row now and another record crowd here today. This season, the school sold a record 40,000 season tickets. Now, head coach Paul Rhodes is just in his 4th year. They've already gone to 2 bowl games. And within the last year, they've knocked off 3 ranked opponents. But he told us the thing he's most proud of is when fans come up to him and tell him how proud and excited they are about their program. Texas coach Mack Brown summed it up this way when the Longhorns came last season. He took a look around and he said, I don't even recognize this place. Mike, success will do that.
And Janine, nobody recognizes it, and that is a good thing for the Cyclones of Iowa State. Kickoff from Ames is coming up. Can they make it 3 top 25 upsets in 2012? This presentation of college football presented by Kay Jewelers will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Since the start of the 2010 season, Paul Rhodes and Iowa State have beaten 4 top 25 teams. In 2010, they knocked off Texas and Austin. 2011, 2 more. First, Texas Tech in Lubbock. Then a stunning double overtime defeat of number 2 Oklahoma State here at Jack Trice Stadium. Then this year, the Cyclones ended TCU's 12-game winning streak. Paul Rhodes doing what many thought was impossible in Ames, Iowa. Iowa State has gone to 11 bowl games ever. He has taken them 2 of the last 3 years. This will be the 13th crowd of better than 50,000. We expect no seats to be left unfilled.
And with an upset win today, they become bowl eligible for the 2nd time in 3 years, which has never happened here.
Iowa State will receive. Jarvis West across the 20. Iowa State coaches are asking quarterback Steele Jantz just to play within himself and trust the system. He did last week and had the game of his life. That was Baylor. Can he do it again against Oklahoma?
What we'll track is how quickly the ball comes out of his hands. This is a true spread offense. Of course, Tom Herman left and went to Ohio State as the offensive coordinator last year. Courtney Messingham came in, runs the same type system where the quarterback is more of a point guard than a pocket passer, so they want the ball out of his hands quickly. That's when he plays at his best.
Good news for Iowa State at the start. James White is in there, and that can be a face mask, as Jantz is taken down by the face mask by Corey Nelson, who had him dead to rights and ended up with a handful of face mask.
Defense, Summers. Automatic. First down.
Let's take a look at today's impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Ed?
Well, for Iowa State, Jarvis West last week had just a breakout game. He had 0 touchdowns coming into that game against Baylor. 3 touchdown catches from Jantz, so maybe a little matchup there. And then A.J. Klein, he's missing one of his teammates. A big loss, and Jake Knott, who will not play the rest of the season. Both of these guys, all conference-type linebackers.
Jantz looking, being chased, now throws it away. Had forever. They're trying to set up a flanker screen to the near side, but it was covered perfectly by Oklahoma. He had nowhere to go.
And Mike Stoops, of course, came back after being let go as the head coach at Arizona. He was the defensive coordinator for his brother from '99 to 2003. And watching this defense on tape, I've seen Oklahoma a lot over the last 6 or 7 years. I think this is the best they've played over an entire season in many seasons.
Woody, number 32, is in the backfield. They'll run the triple option, and White on the toss. Really never got by Corey Nelson, the outside linebacker, to start with. Only picked up a couple. It'll be 3rd and long. Jantz is a threat to keep the ball. He's not the kind of guy who's going to break a 60-yarder on you, but he can run.
And that's why you see 3 down linemen in now for Oklahoma. They have some diversity up front. They're pretty simple defense. They play a couple of coverages and just a couple of fronts. But now, because Jantz can run, you want more smaller bodies on. That's why you only have 3 down, and even those guys are moving around trying to disguise it.
Jantz had a career best 5 touchdown passes last week. Here comes the blitz. Jantz on the out and overthrows Jarvis West. Covered closely by Julian Wilson, who's in on the nickel. This is the greatest kicking game matchup that you can imagine. Kirby Vanderkamp is on to punt to Justin Brown, who is 2nd in the country, 19 yards a return. Vanderkamp, an outstanding kicker. Although he doesn't get all of this one, it takes a good Iowa State bounce inside the 30. He gets the roll to the 26-yard line. Punt of 36 and no return. And now Oklahoma gets a chance to play offense. Landry Jones, 12 touchdown passes this year. That's tied for 4th in the FBS. Also 4th in the FBS in passing yards. The most wins as a starter in school history is 34 and 10, and 2nd in passing yards all time, 3rd in passing TDs all time in the Big 12. And Jones wants to throw on 1st down under pressure. Swings it out and short hops it to his fullback, Trey Miller. Good pressure by Cleon Lang, who got right in Landry Jones' face, and Iowa State said, this is what we got to do.
And Iowa State's good enough up front to get pressure without a blitz. This is a 4-man rush, and Lang goes right by the guard, Bronson Irwin, and frankly, this is the part of the game where Landry Jones needs his most improvement. That should have been a complete pass for about a 7-yard gain, but it was thrown in the ground.
They'll hand it off on 2nd down. Brennan Clay, who has only carried the ball 30 times this year, stopped by Cleon Lang. The situation with Oklahoma, Damian Williams, who is their starting running back, the guy who has 581 yards this year, is banged up and may not be able to go. He has a bad ankle. And without him, the running attack really suffers. 3rd and long for Landry Jones. Three-man rush. Jones with plenty of time throws over the middle and completes to Justin Brown. The Penn State transfer makes the catch at the 40 on a late developing crossing route. Jeremy Reeves was there, and Oklahoma hurries to the line of scrimmage. They can run an awful lot of plays in a very short amount of time. Jones throws again. This one complete to Sterling Shepard. And it's go, go, go.
And that's when they get going on this, they like to go fast. That throw right there by Landry Jones was gorgeous. So now I think they're trying to get him in a rhythm, get out of his head a little bit.
Here comes the blitz. They don't get there, and the pass incomplete. There's a flag down in the secondary. The one thing Landry Jones has not reacted very well to this year is pressure. And that time he got a little bit of pressure and threw a bad pass.
Well, and we saw on the very first play there was Lang got pressure, and he had Millard. Jones had Millard open in the safety valve, and he just hurried the throw, and it was inaccurate. That's been something that Jones really needs to work on. And
motion offense, number 18. Offside defense.
Take a look at today's Impact Players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Now we have offsetting penalties, having some trouble with the ref's mic there. But for Oklahoma, Gabe Eichert's done a very nice job moving over to center. He was slated to start as guard in the year, but he struggled against Notre Dame, snapped one by the quarterback when he didn't call for it, rolled another one back, so he's got to get better. And Javon Harris, 4 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. This is, I think, the best secondary in the conference, maybe in the country.
Brennan Clay dragged down by Cleon Lang, who has already made his presence felt in this ball game.
And what a loss for not having Damian Williams. Williams, a junior college transfer who had a 95-yard touchdown run against Texas. Just when you watch him on film, he's an elite guy. Not that they don't have a lot of depth here at running back at Oklahoma, but Williams seemed to start to kind of separate himself from the rest of the guys.
Jones on the quick out, this time to Kenny Stills, who slips a tackle and has a first down to the Iowa State 24-yard line. Jansen Watson, the corner, got a piece of him but couldn't hold on.
And this is a guy in Stills who had been playing inside in a slot receiver. Remember all of the problems at wide receiver for Oklahoma, off the field problems. They had transfers that weren't eligible. He's a guy now that's more comfortable playing that outside position than he was playing the inside receiver position earlier in the year.
So spotted at the 29. Right back to work in the passing game. That's another transfer. One of the guys you talked about, Jalen Saunders, who tied a school record with 15 catches last week against Notre Dame. Saunders was one of the elite receivers on the West Coast when he played at Fresno State. He's only played 3 full games for this team, as he was declared eligible late by the NCAA because he didn't want to sit out a year and filed an appeal with them. So he's made an impact in just those 3 games. And
he was a guy at Fresno State that he had a health issue with the San Joaquin Valley Air. So when he transferred, they looked into the rule, and there was a rule in the NCAA handbook that if you had a health issue, and so the NCAA forced the issue. They looked deeply into the medical part of that claim, and Saunders, it took a while to get him eligible, but he is the biggest reason that they've been able to move Stills to the outside, because Saunders really good in the tighter space of that slot position.
So that Oklahoma air is better for you, I guess.
There is, you know, I live in California. There are people who suffer going to San Joaquin Valley of some respiratory issues. So, legitimate deal.
A double wing formation here, and Williams has come into the ball game, and Williams will get the carry and is greeted at the line of scrimmage. He's had his legs taken out from under him by Jeremiah George. George trying to fill the gap left by the departed Jake Knott, who's one of the great players in the history of this university, an all-conference linebacker who is out. So Klein moves to his spot, and Jeremiah George takes over in the middle.
And now with Jansen Watson out at corner, who's one of their best cover corners, do not be surprised. It looks like you have a one-on-one coverage to either side on Jones. Don't be surprised if you see something thrown to the end zone here.
They'll whistle this one dead, and one of the officials goes down.
Oklahoma, first charge of the half. Full.
First time I ever saw an official fall down on a timeout call. Jake Nutt, we'll hear from him later on. He's mic'd up for us today from Iowa State. Jansen Watson, the fastest corner that Iowa State has, still on the sideline. As Oklahoma has reached the Iowa State 13-yard line. Brennan Clay, straight up the middle. Brennan Clay to the 6-yard line.
Running for Oklahoma, number 24.
Good hard run by the 5'11", 200-pound junior Darrell Evans made the stop. He's the third leading tackler on this ball club.
And now you've got 3rd and short. This is an offensive line play. I think you want to try to run this. This is a good interior defensive line for Iowa State, but I think this is a place where you maybe keep it between the tackles, do something straight ahead. I think you want the first down here, not necessarily a throw.
This is the Belldozer formation. Blake Bell, an enormous quarterback, and he wants to take it off the right side. Bell, ball's out. They're going to say it's down. And that looked like a good call. Blake Bell is 6'6", 254.
And, of course, he fumbled a snap on the 1-yard line against Kansas State. And here he's got to cut this up a little faster. Boy, that was a little closer than it looked. I do think that Bell's knee was down. I'm not sure. No, he was down. Well, I tell you, I think they should review this. I think that was close enough. I think that was close enough. And if I were Iowa State, I would think about a timeout and a coach's challenge here. But I think the right decision. You have to go for it on 4th. Run it again between the tackles here, I think.
Bell will stay in heavy to the right side on this formation. Little hesitation, and he will dive straight forward. There's another flag down near the line of scrimmage, and Bell upended at the 5.
You know, he does that hesitation sometimes to wait for the hole. I think you just have to run that downhill. I'm not so sure he picked this up. That hesitation, if you're going to run this ball between the tackles, I think you have to go downhill. If you're going to do it with Bell, fine, but let him catch it and be moving forward. That sidestep on short yardage against a very good defensive line almost never works because they're going to get penetration. Eventually, you saw the linebacker George making a foul play.
Shot block, 52 and 86. Gonna decline. Ow.
They declined the penalty because they didn't get the first down, and Iowa State holds on downs. What a great defensive series after Oklahoma marches nearly the length of the field.
Watch the middle linebacker George. Nobody even comes close to him. The defensive line builds a wall, and then watch as Bell, he sidesteps, and it just takes too long. Watch the white shirts. Nobody gets to the level of the linebacker. George is able to meet Bell in the backfield, essentially. I just don't get why you would delay that. Run it straight ahead. If you're going to be between the tackles against a good defensive line, you cannot delay the run.
But Iowa State defense has done a very good job this year, not giving up a lot of points, and that's the bottom line. Chantrell Johnson trying to get outside, but the speed of Tony Jefferson, number 1, the safety, too much. He's the leading tackler on this ball club. He was the nickel last year. They shuffled a lot of guys in the secondary, and it seems to have made all of them more productive.
Jefferson, a guy who's more suited to that free-ranging position. Nickelback, you're in there in the mix, covering that slot. You have to tangle with pulling line. In this one, he can roam around. And Mike Stoops said, I'm even surprised how good he is. I didn't think he'd be this good.
Blitz coming. Steele Jantz throws. Hits Josh Lenz right in the hands. And he dropped it.
And Lenz is a guy who's missed a couple of ball games, did not play last week against Baylor, so timing may be an issue for Lenz. And remember, Steele Jantz had been benched for 3 weeks, so this is a guy coming off of injury who is their best receiver. He's their fastest, has the best body control, so that's a big deal if they don't have their timing down.
He had 3 touchdown catches against TCU. He's a quality guy, just short on that one a little bit. Jantz rolling in the end zone and saw double coverage and threw it away. There is another marker down.
Personal foul. Hands to the face, defense. 15-yard.
What a break that is.
Well, we're having trouble with the referee's mic, so I didn't hear the number, but it was thrown in the coverage, in the direction of the coverage on the long receiver.
So instead of having to punt it away from basically kicking from your own goal line, they've got it out at the 20.
And you get what you want when you go for it on 4th and don't get it. We've got them pinned, get a 3 and out. We'll get another shot close by. So blown opportunity for Oklahoma.
Steele Jantz on the keeper, lowers his shoulder, dives forward to the 26-27-yard line. Here's Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike, and then you mentioned at the top that Steele Jantz was in a 3-way battle to start last week's game. Something that provided a career game for him. Well, another thing that the coaches say may have contributed to it, they kept him from being distracted all week long. He was not to talk to the media. He was only to focus on football. He had his best game ever, and they did the same thing this week.
Lock him in his dorm room if it worked last week. Jantz sitting in the pocket plenty of time, throws an underneath route to his biggest target, Ernst Brunn, the tight end. He was covered perfectly by Tom Wart, number 21, the middle linebacker.
Well, good coaches always talk about control what you can control and leave the rest to everyone else. And Paul Rhodes last week, because of that 3-way competition, the press only wanted to hear from the coaches who was going to start. They weren't talking to the quarterbacks. So they figured, well, wait a minute. This young man who we look at focus and him playing within the system, maybe not having to talk about everything 57 times helped his focus. So we can control that. Let's try it again.
3rd down, almost 5. Jantz floats it near sideline, had a man incomplete. There was some contact. Crowd wanted a flag, and they get it. Chris Young interfered with by Aaron Colvin. Young was open. Jantz hung it up there, and Colvin cut him off.
Naked eye watching that as it was played, it looked to me like Colvin made a nice play. It looked a little bang. I know there was contact, but this flag was thrown from behind Colvin. So the mechanics, the official who had it was a line judge. And I'm not sure he had the right angle. We'll watch this again, but this looked to me like it was pretty solid coverage by Colvin. Well, it was that left hand. You know, there was an advantage. Watch the left hand right there. He put that hand out and he made the body of the receiver move. That was the right call. From right away, I thought it was bang, but that was an advantage for the defense.
Because the ball was underthrown, it really created the contact.
Well, we say all the time, when you overthrow him, it's like a putt that comes up short. You can never catch him. That came out really well.
Oklahoma shows blitz. Fake to White. Jantz to the sideline, diving catch by Jarvis West. That's really the first time one of his receivers has helped him out.
Well, this is a really nice throw. The footwork fell apart for Jantz. The pressure came a little bit late. He's falling away from it. You'd like to see him step into that a bit, but watch how he lays this ball. Excellent coverage by Gabe Lynn. The corner cannot cover a long crossing route any better. That was a sensational throw.
White lost his footing, got it back to the Oklahoma 40. This has just been a huge sequence. They stop Oklahoma on 4th down inside their 10, actually a little bit inside their 5. They get a break on a couple of flags that have kept this drive going, and all of a sudden they're down at the Oklahoma 40. White again. About 1.5 yards. No, make it 3 short of a first down. R.J. Washington made the tackle. How huge would it be if they get any points out of this drive?
Well, and I think you're in that 4-down range now because you're right on the edge of comfortable field goal range. So on a 3rd and short-ish here, if I'm Courtney Messingham, the offensive coordinator, maybe this is the time you try something. Make sure you have some stuff behind the sticks with your routes, but maybe a post, try to get something over the top and see if you can hit it.
Four-man rush. Jantz pressured and tripped. Just tripped by Stacy McGee. Last week was his first game back from a university-imposed suspension, and he was just able to trip up the quarterback.
And just does a masterful job working on the left guard, Ethan Tufte. He slapped his hands. You hear that term, the swim move. You can do that a couple of different ways. You slap the shoulder or the hands, and McGee very quickly slapped the hands of Tufte. That's just a one-on-one win for Oklahoma and forced the punt because of the lost yardage.
Now Kirby Vanderkamp, let's see if he gets that sideways bounce on this the way he normally does, and he did it. Turns the ball sideways and then tries to kick the end of it and make it go sideways. It was brilliant. A 40-yard kick inside the 5.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K. And Ford and the Go Further with Ford Night.
It's the Iowa State drumline accompanying their mascot Cy, performing our theme music on the 50-bell chime inside the McDonald-Stanton Memorial Carillon. Well, we told you about the punter, Kirby Vanderkamp, who does a lot of different things with the football. He is a thinking man's punter. Here's how he does it.
I'm Kirby Vanderkamp, and I'm the punter for Iowa State University. There's a lot of things people don't understand about punting. Most important parts about punting is your drop. You want the ball as flat as possible. It is always windy here. When the wind's in my face, nose in a little bit, and then you want it tilted down. The wind's at your back, you can put the nose up a little bit. The big thing is trying to get that ball to turn over. Started to put it sideways and hit that panel. There's a lot of technique and a lot of things people don't know about it.
All right, so that was a little bit technical for punting, but what he's doing here, watch when he turns the ball and he kicks it right in the middle, the fat part of the ball. So it's a knuckleball, and as it comes down, it lands as a knuckleball, but the axis of the ball is now sideways. So instead of kicking forward, it kicks to the side. I think this young man's got a bright NFL future because he is excellent at doing that exact job, and that's a big deal.
He has had one touchback all year long. He's been able to put the ball inside the 20 consistently, and you got to see how. That's Justin Brown, the Penn State transfer, who has made more of an impact as a kick returner than a wide receiver, but he's done well in that department too. And here is Oklahoma hustling to the line, trying to make sure not only that they can get that defense scrambling, but nobody makes any substitutions.
And this is where these offenses are so hard to defend when they go fast and they don't change the bodies for personnel, but then the personnel play different positions on the field. So the defense doesn't have a chance to say, okay, we need an extra defensive back, we need an extra lineman, and you just have to kind of stay with what you have out there.
The tailback is Brennan Clay. Only seen Damian Williams on one play in this game. Clay picks his way for a couple of yards. Jake McDonough makes the stop. McDonough, fascinating story. A young man who was 220 when he came here, wanted to play defensive line. They said you got to gain a lot of weight. He couldn't gain a pound. In fact, he was losing weight, but a lot of people thought he wasn't dedicated to doing what he was supposed to do here. Then they found out he had celiac disease, so he was allergic to milk, a lot of other foods. He couldn't gain weight.
Well, he has
care of that. Now
he's an NFL prospect at 290,
yes,
doing just fine.
And he is a player. Williams comes into the ball game. That's the junior college transfer from Arizona Western, who led all junior colleges in the country last year in scoring and rushing. And we have an Oklahoma player down. It's the right guard, Bronson Irwin, and boy, they have had their share of injuries up front.
They're awfully thin up front. You had Ben Hayburn, who had to retire from the game, who was expected to be the starting center. So that was what took Eichert over to that center position. And then, of course, you had Tyler Evans, who blew out his knee. He's gone for the year. He was a guard. So now you get Bronson Irwin going out. And you may see Austin Woods come into the game.
And you already had Lane Johnson, the left tackle, playing on a bad ankle. He was questionable coming into this game. Yeah, if Woods comes in, here's a guy who just found out his cancer is in remission. He's been going through chemotherapy. So they're about as thin as they can get. We will check on the injury situation when we come back to Ames, Iowa.
College football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
Bronson Irwin, the starting right guard for Oklahoma, limped off the field very slowly. We told you they're already very thin up front, but he was fortunate that it wasn't worse.
Yeah, Jake McDonough's being blocked by the left guard, Adam Shedd. And Shedd finishes the block and drives McDonough into the ground. Unfortunately, the leg of Irwin is there. That's why in practice you hear coaches say all the time, don't take people to the ground. That's exactly why. When you take people to the ground, sometimes it's your own teammates who get hurt.
3rd and short. Blake Bell comes in. High snap. Got it back and powers forward for enough for a first down.
You know, as much trouble as they're having with their snap, and Blake Bell, of course, had the fumble against Kansas State. They had a holding call that brought back a touchdown against Notre Dame last week, which was a good call. I'm not so sure this package needs to live much longer. And plus, you're starting to get to a place where all you do is run it with Blake Bell. If you're not going to let the guy throw it occasionally, when you play good defenses like Iowa State, I know that's a first down, but these are just risky plays, it seems like, for this offense.
Landry Jones back in. Here's the little touch pass, jet sweep to Finch. Defended pretty well by Iowa State. Darrell Givens was in on the stop.
And that's one of the things that Finch gives you, who has great speed, good vision. He's a running back now, starting to play a little bit more receiver kind of slot with the emergence of Damian Williams. But that jet sweep as a defense, even though that only picks up a yard, it tests your edge, so you can maybe open up the inside run game a bit more.
Clay, the running back. The little touch pass has several advantages, and that came out of the evolution of the spread offense. Bell this time gets to the 31-yard line, and here's Janine.
Well, Mike, just a quick update on Oklahoma's 68, Bronson Irwin. He had injured that ankle in the Texas game. He has re-injured it. He is trying to walk it off. They have not untaped the ankle. They just gave him a couple of aspirin to take. They're going to give him a few minutes to walk it off some more, and hopefully he'll be going back in.
All right, thanks, Janine. It's 3rd and 6 here in a scoreless first quarter from Oklahoma's 31-yard line. They moved the ball well the first time they had it till they reached the Iowa State 5-yard line. Cyclones showed the blitz and come out of it. This one's complete to Saunders out to midfield. Tackle finally made by Darrell Givens, but Saunders picks up 20. When he was at Fresno State, he was number 2 in the country in reception average, 21.4 yards a catch.
And Landry Jones took a big hit as Saunders started to become a target, but he took a big hit and kind of came away a little funny after that. I think he's fine, but he really took a face full of Jeremiah George. Looked like a legal hit to me, but still a good hard hit.
Short set here and through the hands of Saunders that time.
And one of the things you see quarterbacks and guys wearing that chin strap that has the padding. That's the reason. Completely clean hit by George, face up in the chest, but the helmet sometimes can go up and hit you in the chin when you hit someone in the chest like that. George, a guy filling in, of course, with Jake not out, a good clean hit, but when Jones came away, I thought maybe he took a bigger hit on that chin.
2nd and 10 after the drop. Clay, the running back, to the left is Trey Millard, the fullback. And Millard will get a chance. Lowers his shoulder, gets to the 47-yard line, and A.J. Klein, who was filling in for the injured Jake Knott at that weak side linebacker spot, made the tackle. That's the playmaker spot.
And Oklahoma talked about wanting a little more balance running the ball, but right now they're running into the wall that they ran into against Notre Dame. And so this becomes Landry Jones time. If they can't get that running game going, they're going to be in 3rd and long a lot this afternoon.
They're dead last in the Big 12 in rushing, only 50th in the country. That's very unlike Oklahoma football. Jones under some pressure and throws it away. So Iowa State has held again.
So the change that they made on the offensive line when Irwin out was they brought the freshman Derek Farniok in at right tackle, and this is only rush 3. That's all they're bringing, and that's number 50, Will Will Scott coming off the edge, and because of the injury to Irwin, they take Darrell Williams, the right tackle, move him down. A freshman comes in, can't quite handle the one-on-one pressure. So next time, if you're Oklahoma, maybe put a back on that side and help out the young man.
Tressway will kick to Aaron Horn, who's an extremely dangerous kick returner. That ball batted back. Let's see. Did it go into the end zone? It did. 47-yard kick, but a net of only 27 yards. National championship hopes are on the line tonight. The Big 12 Heisman hopeful Colin Klein and number 2 Kansas State continue their title hunt when they go against number 24 Oklahoma State. Saturday Night Football presented by Windows 8 tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC.
And of course, Kansas State is 2-0 against the two teams we have in the building today. Iowa State had the ball a couple of times at the end, down 6, but both drives ended on downs. And of course, Oklahoma just didn't play well offensively that day, but take nothing away from Colin Klein, because that was obviously a huge win for them in Norman.
Steele Jantz gets it out of his hands quickly and got at the lens. The young man who dropped one earlier doesn't drop this one and turns it upfield for 25 yards. Tony Jefferson, the normally sure-handed tackler, missed him to allow the big play.
Well, this is a great job of reading the cornerback blitz by Jantz. As soon as it comes, he gets the ball out of his hands. Remember, we talked about that's what the coaches want. Get it out fast. He read the corner blitz and replaced it with the throw.
Jantz still hesitation. Now he's going to try to run. Crosses the 45 to the 46, so he gains only a yard. You talked about close Oklahoma losses. How about Iowa State? They lost to Texas Tech 24-13. They lost to Kansas State 27-21. They had a shot to beat them, and they lost to Oklahoma State 31-10. They've got a tough schedule. They've acquitted themselves very well. This presentation of college football presented by Kay Jewelers will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Up over here for me. So if you got to yell at the linebackers, let me know. And move around. It's cold out. You don't know when that play's going to happen, right? You know when that game-changing play's going to happen. All right, big day for you boys. Big day for you boys. Big day.
That's Jake Nutt, one of the most decorated players in the history of Iowa State, an all-conference linebacker who ended his college career on the operating table last week as they had to do surgery on his left shoulder. But he played one last game, played with one arm, made 11 tackles, and just wouldn't come out. And he could take no pain medication because he knew he was facing the surgery. It's just a remarkable story. He's mic'd for us and will give us some of his insights during the game. Steele Jantz backs up, throws, dropped again. Holy cow, they got to make those plays if they're going to knock off Oklahoma. Aaron Horn had it go right through his hands. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, the Oklahoma defense has made a couple of changes coming off the field after their last series. There were some communications issues, especially back to the secondary with numbers 9 and 30. So Mike Stoops was not happy. They've changed up their hand signals to make the hand signals clearer, and they want to make sure that the word gets all the way back to everybody as to exactly what they're doing.
Janine, Iowa State has to change its hand position and catch a couple of passes. This one's overthrown.
Mike Stoops obviously a little concerned that talking to Gabe Lynn, a cornerback, and of course Javon Harris, a safety. Obviously your corners and your safeties need to know as a Iowa State players down at the 50-yard line. But I have not seen any mental bust. I haven't seen people running through on the back end for Oklahoma. So and that looks to be potentially the center, Tom Farniak, excuse me. That's 84, Ernst Brunn. That'd be a big loss for them.
Our first chance today to check in with the studio. What's going on around the rest of the country? Here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, Taco Bell studio update. Former Big 12 member Texas A&M is dominating Mississippi State on ESPN. Johnny Football. Look at the run, and then the Cam Newton Superman celebration at the end. Superman net. 21-0 Aggies in Starkville.
Really like that kid. He's a terrific quarterback. Iowa State's going to have to kick it away. Justin Brown, number 2 in the country, in punt returns, and he muffed it. And somehow got it back.
What a kick by Vanderkamp. He put that right on the sideline. You don't see a lot of college punters that are that good directional. That was a sensational kick.
44 yards, and Brown very lucky to get it back. Oklahoma will start in terrible field position.
Hey, Jeremiah. Hey, Jeremiah. And that odd saying, it's you two that have the back?
Yeah, me and Jevin.
Okay.
Jevin had the back.
So if that back comes to you and like...
I took him.
I know. Yeah. I know. You're going to take him no matter what after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm telling him he needs to start getting under those curls and stuff so you help out on that once you have the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oklahoma starts inside its 10. They've got the screen to the fullback, Trey Millard. Millard cuts it up across the 24-yard line. And what you heard when we were coming out of commercial was Jake Knott turned coach, trying to coach up the linebackers that are in there in his place.
Well, Jeremiah George is playing that middle linebacker spot. And so what Knott wanted to make sure was that George knows as Oklahoma goes fast.
That's Dominique Whaley getting a chance to play tailback. And you can see this is a pretty good Iowa State defense.
Well, that's Jeremiah George, who's got tons of ability, and that was not telling him in a coverage where you have the running back, don't try to sneak out and help on a slot receiver who's running a curl route. There's interceptions there, but because Oklahoma uses their back, if you have him in coverage, you have to stay there. Good reminder by Knott, a guy who has a ton of experience, helping a guy with ability who's trying to get some experience.
Four-man rush. Jones with time, throws underneath. That's going to be incomplete. And we'll check in with Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, Jeremiah George told me that losing Jake Knott is, quote, no joke. He said communication is really going to take a hit. He's our coach out there on the field, and as you can see, he's the coach on the sidelines here today. But he said A.J. Klein's going to take over his role, but George told me that he has spent an extra 5 hours watching film this week, just trying to compensate for not being on the field.
Janine, this crowd that we expect to be a record attendance today, going out of its mind right now on 3rd and long. Jones with all day to throw and guns it for a first down to the 43-yard line. Deron Neal makes the catch. You remember, Ed, when Wally Burnham, the defensive coordinator, was saying, we're going to make these guys get one play after another. We're not going to give them the big one. Somewhere along the way, maybe they make a mistake.
And that's exactly what Notre Dame did. Notre Dame rushed 3, dropped 8. That's exactly what Iowa State did. Because of the turnover at receiver, because of the problems on the offensive line, because Landry Jones can look uncomfortable a little bit if you get some pressure, you want to make them earn it. No 3-play touchdown drives if you can help it.
Then every once in a while, they do bring the pressure. Jones throws the quick out. That one's complete to Trey McGuire. Only his 14th catch of the year.
And for Jake Knott, this has to be so painful. A guy who worked so hard for his senior year at Iowa State, has had a wonderful career and will have another career at the next level, I believe. But awfully difficult when you've worked that hard. And you talked about that Baylor game. This young man, Jake Knott, not even an Advil before the game, and wasn't even sure if he's going to be able to play, but gutted it out. And watching him on film turn his body and make tackles with his right shoulder was an awfully impressive athletic thing. I think this guy has enough ability to get drafted and go and really help out an NFL team.
Certainly has an NFL heart. There's no doubt about that. They've reached the 45-yard line of Iowa State. Oklahoma's had drives of 69 and 50 yards, but they haven't resulted in points. Here comes the blitz. They pick it up out in the flat to Millard. And Trey Millard, who always seems to make something positive happen. 256-pound fullback taken down by Roosevelt Majit.
And now you see why the Knott was talking to his linebackers about the backs. That time it was Majit dropped off in a zone blitz, and in that coverage. But Oklahoma, Landry Jones uses his running backs a lot. Millard, of course, had a huge game against Texas with 119 yards and a touchdown receiving. So you've got to watch those guys out of the backfield.
Jones completes almost 2/3 of his throws on the season. Getting good protection here. Goes to Kenny Stills. Until they got Saunders back.
Or eligible.
Yeah. He had to play a lot more slot than he wanted. Not comfortable with it. He likes it better on the outside.
A whole different position. That slot, it's all about finding little holes in the defense. There's more bodies. You're sometimes asked to block bigger guys. Still's more of a natural speed athlete. Feels more comfortable on the outside, and they have clearly improved since he's moved out there, and they've gotten Saunders.
Miller back to Shepard on the flanker reverse. Shepard, who was in the slot, took the toss and down to the 21-yard line. Cliff Stokes makes another tackle. He's in there for the injured Jansen Watson at the corner.
And here comes Oklahoma trying to go a little fast. Sometimes, though, you're not sure what they're going to do. And the problem is when they start getting these misdirections and using these guys that are starting to show that speed. Of course, Shepard, just a freshman, have a lot of tools in their toolbox. And with all of the speed, it's just a lot of things for a defense to keep in mind.
They have not been successful running the ball out of their standard formations. Jones throwing off his back foot that time, incomplete. That's outstanding coverage by Jeremy Reeves, who at 5'7", 176 is their best cover corner. He was right with Justin Brown.
And the one thing the NFL scouts will look at is the pocket breaks down. Does a quarterback step into the throw? And that answer is no. And the pocket clearly was not broken at that point. George was coming clean. But a scout's going to look at that and say, we need to see you step into that ball. And if he steps into it, maybe the ball has a little more air on it so his receiver can make an adjustment instead of it being overthrown.
2nd and 10 from the 22. Clay. Just not much room there. I mean, Iowa State has done a sensational job stiffening on defense when they have to. Ben Durbin was in on that stop.
I think you want to run verticals here if you're Oklahoma and leave someone at the sticks. You got 3 to the right. And Iowa State going to get a timeout. I don't think Iowa State liked the coverage they had against that receiver set. 3 on one side, 1 on the other.
They get a timeout. Scoreless first half. 10:06 to go. Second quarter from Ames, Iowa.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by Aflac, official partner of the Heisman Trophy. And Nissan. Innovation for today. Innovation for tomorrow. Innovation that excites.
This is the Iowa State Virtual Reality Application Center C6 with advanced software and hardware for virtual worlds that deliver interactive, fully immersive experiences. This is a great engineering school with a tremendous reputation. And there is Jake Knott on the sideline, the now retired linebacker. Here's what he had to say earlier in this drive.
I'll run. Either do a turnover. Hey, get a turnover. Score on it, or keep him down here. That's what we got to do.
I'll take it from the 10. I'll take it.
Get yourself a sack. Don't come back without a sack, please, or a TFL.
He was talking to Jake McDonough and Roosevelt Majid, saying, you know what? Don't even come back to the sidelines unless you get a negative yardage play here. This is great stuff. This young man obviously very engaged with what's going on, and if the NFL doesn't work out, I think he may be a coach. He seems a natural at it.
Huge play in this drive, 3rd and 8. Do you bring pressure or do you drop 8?
I think you drop 8, make them earn it, because even if they get the first, you never know what may happen on the next set of downs. And I think for Oklahoma, no, they're going to drop 8. You've got to push those guys off with some vertical routes so you can get past the sticks.
4 wideout, Stills to the near side. He's the single receiver. 3-man rush. Jones for the end zone. Back shoulder throw. That's a touchdown to Sterling Shepard. He beat Dion Broomfield, the nickelback. And that was a terrific throw.
And that was the exact route to the exact player that we saw Landry Jones fall away from the ball slightly on the pressure from George. That time, a very clean pocket, and you see the arm talent of Landry Jones. When the pocket's clean and he throws it, boy, he can throw it as good as anybody in the country.
His 13th touchdown pass this year, and that caps a 90-yard drive. That time they were able to finish it off.
And I think if you're Iowa State, you take that all day long. You made him earn every yard of it.
Michael Honeycutt for the point after.
Well, you're starting to get a sense that Oklahoma's offensive coaches like number 3 Sterling Shepard. This ball, even though not a tight spiral, sometimes that's easier to catch. But when you throw the back shoulder, throw it on time and hard. That's exactly what Landry Jones did that time.
This afternoon at 3:30, ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2 have 3 great college football games for you on ABC or ESPN2. You can see either number 20 Nebraska at Michigan State or number 23 Texas at number 18 Texas Tech. Both games available nationally. Check your local listings. Plus on ESPN, Illinois against undefeated Ohio State. All 3 games also available live on Watch ESPN this afternoon at 3:30.
Well, one of the bummers of the shifting landscape of college football is Oklahoma and Nebraska no longer being in the same conference. Just does not quite feel right to me.
No.
I understand Nebraska going to Big Ten. I get why it made sense for them, but boy, it sure feels like in this part of the country something's missing.
Traditional rivalries to mirror what college football is built on, and to see them disappear so people can make a few bucks drives me out of my mind. Jarvis West on the return. Iowa State has not done very well on kickoff returns this year, but that one wasn't bad up to the 32-yard line. And here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, Dr. Pepper conference update from the Big Ten. Jannard Robinson is not playing for Michigan, but he has to be proud of his backup, Devin Gardner. Watch the mobility, watch Gardner buy time, and then heave it downfield for a wide-open Drew DeLeo. Michigan and Minnesota tied at 7. Mike.
Robert, thanks so much. From the 31, Iowa State will start with quarterback Steele Jantz in an empty backfield. Oklahoma finally got through that Iowa State defense to put the first score on the board. And this may be a delay.
Substitution. Down.
Bob Stoops doesn't like the call. Cost him 5 yards in a substitution infraction. Let's go to Janine.
Well, Mike, following the formula that we talked about earlier with Iowa State quarterback Steele Jantz and limiting distractions, no media for the last 2 weeks, just keeping him completely honed in on football. When he comes off the bench to the bench on the sideline, he doesn't speak to anybody. He puts the headset on. He doesn't talk to anybody on the offense. It seems that they want to just keep one voice in his head and just keep him very, very focused.
And I've played with guys who, I believe that penalty was waived off, correct?
It was.
Correct, yeah. So, but I played with guys like that, you know, they get to thinking too much, so they're just trying to keep the chatter down from it. I think it's smart.
Coaches will say, we don't want you thinking, we want you playing. That's Chantrell Johnson, who gets a little swing pass. Javon Harris makes the stop.
And it's different for every guy. I played for Don James, one of the best head coaches in the history of the game, and his pregame rule was, whatever you want to do, make it private for yourself. If you're going to listen to music, put on headsets, because you don't know how everyone wants to prepare.
That's
but
great.
if you have a quarterback that needs it to be a little quiet, you can make that for him. That's a good thing to control if you can.
Johnson trying to use that speed to get to the outside, and he does. Midfield and more, picking him up and laying him down. Chantrell Johnson, who has started 4 games this year, picks up 19. He's in there in relief of James White.
And this is, you hear coaches talk about missed tackles. This is a missed tackle by Javon Harris. Nice move by Chantrell Johnson and a wonderful stiff arm, but that should have been maybe a loss of a yard instead of a big game in the spread offense. There's nobody there to clean up a missed tackle.
Johnson again will pick up a couple. 5'9", 190 pounds out of DeLand, Florida.
Iowa State has always had some success in Florida. With the Davis brothers who played here, both ran for over 2,000 yards in their career.
And they've got a few kids out of California as well.
Well, the brand that people are starting to recognize Iowa State as a brand that wins important games.
This will be for about 5 more yards as Jeff Woody gets a chance to carry the ball.
I'll tell you, a guy that I really liked watching on film was middle linebacker Tom Wart against Notre Dame. He was super dialed in. His eyes were perfect. A lot of misdirection in these new offenses. You could see, you know, we heard earlier not talking about reading the running back.
Right.
This guy, when he was reading the running back, he was there in the hole. He played really well against Notre Dame.
Big third down here, 3rd and 5. Chance wants a screen. Instead, it's a little crossing around underneath, hoping to get Jarvis West free, but he was covered up completely. Tony Jefferson was right there.
Well, that was great pressure. And here you are on 4th down for Iowa State.
What are you going to do?
You're in that. Well, they're going to send the punt unit out. I think the way that Paul Rhodes, who's a defensive coach, never forget that, the head coach defense coming up. So I think what he's feeling is my defense is playing pretty good. I think we're going to get a turnover or 2 or 3 before this is over. If it were 4th and 2, maybe go for it here. I think this is the right call to punt it away.
Plus, you have one of the best kickers in the country.
That helps.
Hangs this one very high.
Wow.
And lets his defense settle under. They down it at the 3.
This is one of the best punters I've seen in college football in many years, especially with these touch kicks.
He knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Landry Jones, the last time Oklahoma had the ball, took them 90 yards for the only score of the ball game. He'll have to take them 97 this time. Welcome back to college football, presented by Kay Jewelers. Iowa State has done its job defensively. They've held Oklahoma to 53 yards rushing, but Landry Jones passed their way to a touchdown on the last possession. Jones throwing out of his own end zone. He's going to have enough for a 1st down out to about the 17-yard line. All defensive coaches go into games saying the one thing we have to do is stop the run. Offensive coaches say we have to run. Football hasn't changed that much, even with all the different offenses.
Well, it's a part of challenging every part of the defense, because the best way to challenge the middle of the defensive line is with the run. So now you are attacking the entire field. It is still very important to make sure you're attacking. Oh, it's the whole idea of the spread.
Damian Williams, who doesn't look comfortable running right now. He's covering up the ball with both hands like he doesn't expect to go very far and waiting on contact.
Yeah, and this is he's done. That looks like a guy who's just not going to be able to finish the game, especially when you watch him when he's healthy. He is such a dynamic cutter. He has great vision, great explosion. So I think you just have to even though he's your best back, with that injury, he's just not helping you. I think you're going to have to sit this young man down.
Comes in with a bad ankle. He has 3 runs this year of over 60 yards. So he is a game breaker. Jones throws again underneath, and certainly they have found a rhythm in their passing game.
Well, and to me, this is, you had mentioned Wally Burnham, the defense coordinator for Iowa State, that he will bring pressure. When Jones gets into this type of rhythm and you're not getting there with 3 or 4 defensive linemen and they're going fast, you may have to start bringing pressure.
He's 16 out of 21 for 178 yards, and that one was thrown late, intended for Stills, and Jeremy Reeves nearly had a pick 6. Another half step, and he's got it.
This ball floats on Landry Jones. This ball floats on Landry Jones as he lets it go. It wasn't thrown late. It was just thrown a little high and wobbly, so that allowed Reeves to come under it. Very good coverage by Reeves, but just not a wonderful throw by Jones there.
Well, to reemphasize the point you made earlier, when he sees pressure, he does not step into those throws. Clay And Brennan Clay will have about 12 yards. That'll be a first down out at the 38-yard line. Darrell Williams, the right tackle, out in front, threw a good block.
Nice to have Williams, 79, back at tackle. Remember, they had to move him down inside with Bronson Irwin out, so now you get Williams back at that tackle, gets the hook block. One guy we have not seen is Dominic Whaley. Remember, had that fine year last year, was injured. Apparently 100% healthy now after coming back from the ankle surgery on his left leg.
He had the one carry, and that's been it. Jones, and that one is picked. Intercepted by Darrell Givens. He stepped out of bounds, I believe, but Givens still on his feet. No signal from an official. And he's back to the 15-yard line. That ball hung up. A 47-yard return as Givens gets his second pick of the year.
Landry Jones stays on this route forever, and the safety could not have played it better. Jones' eyes were there the whole time. You can see the safety had already started to make the break on the ball. And how close is this? I don't think he stepped out. I think they should review it, but I think the officials are right. All of the Oklahoma coaches, watch the step right. That one, tough to tell if he's out, but that one there, whew, he may have touched White. They need to review this. Yeah, they're shutting it down. This is the step right
The previous play is under further.
And then the next step after this, watch his left heel to see if it goes down. Here's the ruling. The ruling on the field, and this is the same thing with Manti Te'o's interception last week for Notre Dame. The ruling on the field was that he made the catch. And even though the replay, maybe it touched the grass, you can't overturn it if you think maybe that 24's foot is out of bounds. If Givens, if you can't clearly say that heel was in the white, it's got to stand. And I don't think you can clearly say it.
At first blush, I thought he was out of bounds, but then the Oklahoma coaches and players didn't go absolutely crazy.
I saw one coach come up and he was yelling at the back judge. I don't think he overturned this. This is not, to me, indisputable video evidence that Givens went out of bounds. And remember, the call was not that he did go out of bounds, which they would have then blown it dead, so everyone would have stopped. But that step is in. It's the next step with the left foot. Watch that heel. And, of course, there's a body in the way. So from the angle we can see, which is a great angle, this one right here. But you go back to Landry Jones, and he just stayed on that ball for a while. But that, yeah, it sure was.
Down.
And reading lips, the referee said that the ruling on the field stands, which means they couldn't confirm it or overturn it, so it goes as called on the field. And I think that's the right decision.
That's why what they call initially is so important. Because so many replays you can't tell.
And I'm not sure they didn't get it right in real time, too. Sure. That was awfully close.
But this is an enormous break for Iowa State. They have the ball at the 15.
And the flip side is, if you're the official and you blow it dead and he stayed in, you've heard a big play for a team. Let that play go. They're taught that as well.
Steele Jantz rolling right and throws it away. Had a man in the end zone, but he was double covered in the corner. This is the last place you want to try to force something.
And that was a nice job. Second time we've seen Jantz on that rollout when the 3 layered routes he had that were mirroring him the direction he was running were completely covered. And I think Mike Stoops, forget about what happened at Arizona. If you just talk about defensive coaches, I think Mike Stoops, it's Bud Foster. I think Mike Stoops is that level of defensive coordinator. I'm not going to fool him much.
Jantz. Another drop. Holy cow, that's 3. Jarvis West. That ball just hit him right on top of the 1.
Well, and we've already talked a bit about Steele Jantz and how the coaches have tried to kind of put him in a cocoon because he can go up and down with his emotions. Well, if people keep dropping passes, a young man who has been putting the ball on the money and made some nice throws, maybe he's going to start having some trouble with his teammates.
Well, he's going to come out of the cocoon screaming.
Yes, he is.
3 big drops, and he's put the ball on the money on those. Huge third down here. Under pressure. There's a good catch as he hits West again. West makes the grab at the 9.
I think you have to consider going for it here. Well, it's 4th and 4.
I like the field goal.
Yeah, you get the sense that Oklahoma may end up with some big plays in the second half offensively. I'm just not sure that 3 here is going to be enough for Iowa State, but their defense has played well, so I get the call.
Arceo has hit 5 out of 8 this year. This is from 27. Only one of his misses under 49. And Iowa State cuts the lead to 4 after the interception. 4:10 to go first half. 7-3 from Ames. Now let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. We got a good one here in Ames, Iowa. Oklahoma on top 7-3. Landry Jones has had a good passing first half, except for that pick that set up the only score for Iowa State. Jantz 5 out of 15, but let's be serious, it should be 8 or 9 out of 15. And the red zone defense for Iowa State has been really good. Clay and Finch are deep. Clay tripped up as he got to the 37-yard line. That could have been a big return. As it was, it went for 31. Here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, here's what's happening on SportsCenter right now, brought to you by HP. Number 10 Louisville having a tough time with Temple, but they still lead 24-17. Jeremy Wright, the short touchdown run. And then Kendall Lawrence, a 1-yard plunge for Missouri. And they're leading number 7 Florida at the Swamp 7-0. That game on ESPN2.
Well, we saw Temple early in the season. I frankly thought they were going to be better than it's turned out. Landry Jones gives it to Brennan Clay. Can't find any running room, and then lowers his shoulder and picks up 4 or 5. Now we're going to take a look at our Aflac trivia question. How many former Iowa State head or assistant coaches have gone on to win a national championship as a head coach at another school?
Well, one of them is the guy that Paul Rhodes replaced, Gene Chizik, who I think saying he's on the hot seat is an understatement at Auburn now. I'm not sure he's going to survive this offseason. How about that turnaround?
Yeah, 2 years after winning a national championship. Jones under some pressure, throws, tipped, intercepted. The pressure did it again. Jeremiah George got a hand up, and Darrell Gibbons, excuse me. Gibbons came in, made the pick on the tip drill, and Jeremiah George is the new middle linebacker as A.J. Klein moves to the weak side. 2 picks against Landry Jones.
And what did we hear not talking about with George when we came back from break that time about his coverage on running backs and stay in there? This is a ball that needs to have a little more air thrown on it, but give George credit for being in the right spot. All of the linebackers and coaches we talked to yesterday said George is going to be just fine. Yes, we're going to miss Knott, but George can really play. That was a great read by an underneath linebacker.
And you wonder what Landry Jones was seeing there, because there were a lot of defenders in the area. And Jantz, quarterback keeper, he'll get maybe a yard.
That is the toughest. Quarterbacks talk all the time about linebackers. You don't see them, you just have to feel where they are. Because if you put your eyes on a linebacker as a quarterback, you can't see the safety behind it. What's the coverage? What's the corner doing on the route? So what linebackers learn how to do over time is start to sit in the lanes they know the quarterbacks are going to throw and hope that they drive the ball instead of loft it like Landry Jones did there.
Clock is running, 2:40 to go first half. Iowa State will keep it on the ground with Chantrell Johnson.
And it's not about height, because Jeremiah George goes all of 5'11", or at least listed. It's about timing and eyes. He read, you could see him the whole way. He was reading Jones' eyes the entire time, and when Jones came into the slot, Saunders running that slant, George was standing right there. And that's a tough break for a quarterback. Every level of quarterback throws a ball that a linebacker gets a hand on, because that is just it's so tough to see them. You just have to kind of feel it.
Can they keep this drive alive? 3rd and a long 5. 3 wide receivers. Oklahoma trying to come with a little pressure. Here's the outcut and the complete pass to Albert Gray. And Albert Gray is going to have a first down. Iowa State keeps the drive alive at the 151 mark.
And this is a really accurate throw by Jans. Accuracy helps with the run after the catch. Watch how this hits the receiver right in the hands. He has to make no adjustment with his body. And Gary had that ball put right on his mitts by his quarterback. Jans is accurate when given the chance.
Tell you what, without those drops, he would have some sterling numbers in this half. Chantrell Johnson swallowed up by R.J. Washington. Nothing else. Iowa State wants to keep the ball away from Oklahoma in this last minute and a half.
Absolutely. We've got 2 timeouts. Now you've got to start thinking, you know, you're on a fine line here. You're on a fine line because that clock's going to start going fast. You have your 2 timeouts if you're Iowa State. Don't hold those back because you've got to get out of here with points, you think. Oklahoma offensively is just too good.
One more completion and you're in pretty good field goal range. Back shoulder throw too far to the back shoulder, and that pass is incomplete. Here's our Aflac answer. How many former Iowa State head or assistant coaches have gone on to win a national championship as a head coach at another school? Actually, there were 6 of them. Pop Warner, Jimmy Johnson, Johnny Majors, Pete Carroll, Mack Brown, and Gene Chisholm. Holy cow.
Well, and you wonder why Mack Brown, when Janine said at the front, this place looks different.
Yeah.
Well, Mack Brown knew what this place looked like
exactly.
back in the 70s when he was an assistant here.
Another big 3rd down.
Timeout.
And Oklahoma is going to call for a timeout. Pop Warner, Jimmy Johnson, who was here 68 and 69. Johnny Majors was the head coach at Iowa State. Of course, he had most of his success at Tennessee and Pittsburgh. Pete Carroll, an assistant in 1978. Mack Brown all the way back in the late 70s, 79, 80, and 81. And then Gene Chisholm. And when Gene Chisholm left here, he was quoted as saying some very unkind things about the coaching position here at Iowa State and the chances of winning. One, and I'll quote, he says, "This job sucks."
Yeah,
that's pretty harsh, and even though he may have been right at the time. But what Paul Rhodes has done is make people believe. Look at the way they're playing today and the upsets they've had in the last couple of years.
Paul Rhodes, the irony was Paul Rhodes was a defensive coordinator for Tommy Tuberville at Auburn, who was fired before Gene Chisholm was hired. He said, I walked into a room with a bunch of players that needed a guy like me, a local guy from Iowa, who wanted to be here. But he said the truth is, I was a first-time head coach out of work. I needed them too. So this is the perfect fit for coaching players, and you've seen it with the results on the field.
3rd and 10. Four-man rush. Jans hangs in the pocket, throws, excellent coverage, incomplete. And they had intended for Chris Young, and DeMontre Hurst was all over him.
And they had the call that they want, but now I think that they are just outside. You're right. You know, 33 yards. Well, you're on it.
This is 50.
Yeah, you know, you're right on that line. You'd love another 5 or 6, but this can be one of those balls that's driven. And remember, this is a big, powerful front for Oklahoma. If they get some push, sometimes this is a low kick. You'd have loved a few more yards and more time off the clock, I think, if you're Iowa State here.
This is going to be 51. His long this year is 49. Oh, plenty of distance. He just crushed that thing. That would have been good from about 58. That was just bombed. Edwin Arceo cuts the gap to 1. And even though they didn't get the touchdowns off of the turnovers, 2 big interceptions set up field goals.
Now the question for Iowa State, though, 1:04. Oklahoma, that goes fast all the time anyway. They have a timeout. Maybe left a little too much on the clock.
And they have one of the best kickoff return games in the country. Roy Finch would be 3rd in the country if he had enough returns to qualify. And Iowa State has been dreadful on kick coverage. Coming up on the Capital One halftime report, John Saunders, Jesse Palmer. and they'll fill you in on everything going on in college football.
I would assume this kick is not going to get more than 2 or 3 inches off the grass. But you do want to kick it down there. If you squib it, I always think, you get it to 30, 35. That's too much field position. Or you kick it out of bounds with the new kick at the 35-yard, or kick it in the end zone.
Better than anything.
Yes.
Just drill it somewhere. ESPN College Football available anytime, anywhere on your computer or mobile device via WatchESPN.com and the Watch ESPN app.
So now you're Oklahoma, because of the 5-yard bonus you get for the touchback new to this season. You're at the 25. You've got a senior quarterback, minute 4. Now that timeout, don't treat it like gold. It's about clock and plays. If you're going to burn some clock because you had a 6-yard throw and people can't get back, don't let that timeout sit around. Use it if you need. 15, 20 seconds burn off the clock is too much between plays here.
Clock stops temporarily on first downs, and they'll go to the ground, which has not been successful. Brennan Clay, and very conservative play call, and Oklahoma doesn't look like there's a great sense of urgency right now.
I think what this is, Bob Stoops is tired of interceptions. He's got 2 from his quarterback that frankly were great plays by Iowa State, but also the quarterback not doing much. Yeah, and his last 2 throws were intercepted. So this is Bob Stoops, the defensive coach, saying, I just want to get to halftime. I understand the logic here, and I don't think Iowa State can stop it with 2 timeouts.
Play again. Gets to the outside, forced out of bounds by Klein. That'll stop the clock with 26 seconds to left in the half. And here's Janine Edwards.
Well, you guys were talking about Jeremiah George and that great pick earlier. And guys, we had talked about how nervous he was before this game without his buddy Jake Knott on the field. And he was telling me how many extra hours he spent watching film. And A.J. Klein told me that George has been so pumped but so nervous about this game. He was texting him pictures of formations and saying, now what would I do here? And what would I do here?
Well, Janine, he has certainly played well, hasn't he? Landry Jones is going to air it out here. This is deep down the sideline. The defender never saw it. Cliff Stokes had his back turned, and Justin Brown almost like a fair catch.
Great call by Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator. We got a couple of runs. We got out to midfield. You throw a fade. We either catch it, it's incomplete, or we get defensive pass interference, and Landry Jones couldn't throw this much better.
Stokes was turned around. They still have 20 seconds to go. Now Jones is going to go for the end zone to Stills, and it's a touchdown. What a killer sequence for Iowa State, and tip of the cap to Landry Jones for a couple of great throws.
And I would argue that if Brennan Clay would have stayed in bounds on that run for first down, I think Oklahoma would have let the clock go out. He goes out of bounds, and I think Josh Heupel probably gets on the headset and says, Coach, let me throw one fade. I'll tell him he's got to throw it out of bounds, but let me throw one fade. And Landry Jones dropped one into Justin Brown and just made another good throw to Stills. This is a big turn of momentum for Oklahoma.
Well, he earned his paycheck with that call, because they'll have all the momentum on their side after Iowa State had taken it away from them and cut the lead to a point.
I like, what a wonderful way to finish for Oklahoma. And Stills does. You can't cover it any better. I mean, the ball is a little to the inside. It's actually not a great throw. You got air on it. You let it come to the inside. But Jeremy Reeves at 5'7", he's not giving up a ton of height to Kenny Stills. But Stills just goes up and takes it away.
Stills out of Encinitas, California, making his 5th touchdown catch of the season. And Oklahoma now starting to pile up the yards. 46 plays they've run in the first half and 325 yards.
That's why those field goals, especially when they get down to that 4th and short and that 30-yard range for Iowa State, this team, I don't care what you say about Oklahoma this year, when Landry Jones has some time, and that throw to Brown on that fade, he put it right on the sideline. It was either going to be incomplete, pass interference, or our guy was going to come down with it or make a play on the ball. That was a good call, good management of the clock there at the end, because I think they were trying to run it out.
Only 14 seconds to go, and they'll go with the squib kick. And Iowa State will get it back to about the 37-yard line. The clock stops temporarily with 8 seconds left. BCS Countdown on ESPN and ESPNU tomorrow. After the dust has settled, our analysts break down how this week's games impacted the standings and look ahead a week. BCS Countdown presented by Discover Card tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Then at 9, it continues on ESPNU.
And now if I'm Paul Rhodes, I'd take the handcuffs off a little bit and let you're right on that range where I don't think that you're going to be able to throw the ball all the way down the field to the end zone. So, but with this time, I think you can run an outcut, a 10-yard pass, and then I think you might have a second left to try to get one of the end zone.
Jantz operating against a 3-man rush, and he'll go down at the 21-yard line. And that will end the first half, as they never got the chance to throw it downfield. This record crowd stunned after Oklahoma goes the length of the field and scores. Here's Janine with Paul Rhodes.
Coach, you had a 1-point game on your hands. How does the tone of your locker room speech change now with this turn of momentum by Oklahoma?
Yeah, you gotta sway momentum back. You gotta overcome adversity, and that's what our guys will do. There won't be any panic in that locker room.
And you're without your best defensive player today. How would you assess the play of your defense, especially how opportunistic they've been in this first half?
They've been playing very inspiring, and you got to turn the ball over against the number 12 ranked team in the country, and we did a nice job of that in the first half.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Janine. At the half, our score: Oklahoma 14, Iowa State 6. When we come back, John Saunders and Jesse Palmer bring you up to date with the Capital One halftime report. This presentation of college football, presented by Kay Jewelers, will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to college football, presented by Kay Jewelers. What a turnaround. It was 7-6 until the closing moments of the first half, when Oklahoma pulled out a big pass play that eventually led to a touchdown. Record crowd, tremendous atmosphere here. They were so into it, then it became like a tune.
And the thing that Iowa State has to be careful about is Oklahoma, as we know, can score in bunches. And Oklahoma ran 46 plays in that first half. So for Iowa State, I think offensively, if they don't get something going, I think their defense may get worn out. And unfortunately for them, that last one put it in a position where they start to get worn out too early in this game. It could become a runaway. So for Iowa State, they have to have some possession time offensively here in the third quarter.
And Oklahoma gets the ball to start the second half. Finch and Clay are deep for the number 3 kickoff return unit in the country. Iowa State 94 covering kicks, but this one will go through the end zone. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, in a game that has been a lot about defense, it's nice to have a kicker, a punter like you have for Iowa State and Kirby Vanderkamp. He's been sensational today, and then you get the 2 interceptions on back-to-back throws by Landry Jones. And when it looked like Oklahoma may be running out the clock, Jones throws 2 fades, one an excellent one to Justin Brown, and then the final one an excellent catch by Kenny Stills. So let's see if they go fast here to see if they can't continue to wear out this Iowa State defense.
They'll start from the 25-yard line. Clay as the tailback shifts to the left side. They throw back to the other side to Justin Brown, and here's Janine.
Well, guys, I spoke to Bob Stoops, who told me that obviously that score to end the half was a huge momentum boost, not just for the players, but for the coaches as well. They expect to go fast on this series. They're going to go bang-bang like they did to close out the half. Landry Jones, they feel, is settling into a rhythm now, should have a better job finding some open guys. And defensively, they want to do a little bit better job on those pivot routes inside. But they tell me the mood in the locker room was very businesslike. They just want to get the win.
Well, Janine, they certainly have momentum on their side coming out. Here's another flanker screen. They get this one out to Sterling Shepard. Good block by Saunders.
Excellent block by Saunders. If you're going to run the wide receiver screen, the receiver who's not catching it needs to make a block that sustains, because sometimes it takes a long time for that to get over there. And Saunders, who had fallen to his knees, continued to scramble through the defender and open that up.
So he's 5'9", 160. So that's a great effort for him to do that.
Well, and they're going the opposite of fast on this drive so far.
Jones underneath. This one's going to be incomplete, intended for Shepard. Good coverage by Deion Broomfield.
And let's check Kenny Stills. He came up after that last play, and as he was on the sideline or standing over there, he continued to work, I believe, his left leg. I think he may have gotten caught up on the play before on the screen. It looked like his foot may have gotten caught up on the tackle. So let's track his health.
2nd and 10 for Jones. Clay, the tailback. Breaks a tackle. Clay in the open field, and they're going to mark him just shy of a first down. Tyrus Thompson, who's in there now at left tackle, threw him a good block.
And now you're sitting here after a really nice run, and I was watching Stills closely, top of your screen. He's blocking downfield. He looked like he was moving fine. I don't think that the injury was much. That spot was a little short. I thought
yes,
that
it was.
Yeah, that was a first down to me if you get a better spot there.
If you go by the yellow line.
Yeah, but now I think you're in a situation. Remember, they tried to run the ball between the tackles on short yardage earlier. I think you want this ball outside.
Well, this is Blake Bell, their designated short yardage guy. And this is close.
And it just takes too long to develop. It really does.
It takes him a long time to get to the line of scrimmage.
Well, there's a lot of reads. It's not that he's following what's been coached. He reads, he has that shuffle step, but it just takes forever to get there. Again, I think the play before was a first down with a missed spot, but now I don't think that Bell got it. And this is the exact same thing we saw. He's got to do the fake, and then he just kind of stutter steps. And this defensive line for Iowa State is good. Let's not forget that.
As you might imagine, a 6'6", 254, he is not the quickest guy. And the way that play is designed, it just takes a long time for him to get there, and they're short.
I think if you're Oklahoma, punt this thing away. Punt this thing away. If you don't pick up the 4th and Iowa State goes down and score, you've lost all of that momentum. But
to emphasize your point, Bell with 4 rushes. 1 yard, nothing, 2 yards, and nothing.
And I just don't see why he's in the game. I think I would bring a bigger back in and think about either a quarterback sneak with Landry Jones or a straight ahead run.
I'm thinking try to draw him offside. I can't imagine that they would try this.
And you're missing Damian Williams, the best running back, so I think you might be right. They're going for the offsides here.
No, they're going to run the play. And Bell is hit and fell forward. What a gamble. Well, look at the mark. The mark is short.
And the mark was a little short of where he landed, but they're going to go, and Oklahoma may go fast. But I just don't understand the, it's got a fancy name, the Belldozer and all that. But I watched it on film against Kansas State, and seeing it here with my own 2 eyes, I watched it on tape against Notre Dame. I know they want something like what Kansas State has with Colin Klein. Colin Klein's a different player than Bell, and I think they run the ball a little more aggressively with Klein than Oklahoma does with Bell.
Even though the mark was short, it was enough. 5 carries, 4 yards out of that formation. Now Landry Jones got the screen pass to Brennan Clay. Come back and talk about that for a second. You've got all the momentum on your side, and you take a gamble like that. That's really rolling the dice.
I think what Bob Stoops feels is, and here goes Oklahoma really fast again.
Flanker screen again, trying to get these guys in space. And they'll have a first down at the 35.
I understand the logic for going for it. Your defense has been playing very well all year, and of course playing well here today. You feel like you're going to get some momentum. I kind of understand going for it. I just that offensive set with Bell at quarterback just doesn't seem like it's quite built for those short yardage plays. It feels like it's a 2nd and 7 play, not a 4th and short play to me.
That's a good way to describe it. Jones looking to the sideline, changing the play, and Clay goes to the left. Jones again, short set, throwing underneath. Complete to Jalen Saunders, who caught 15 a week ago, tying the school record. That's his 4th catch this afternoon here in Ames on what has turned out to be an absolutely perfect day for football. Fumble and a turnover. Iowa State has it.
Oh, and I think the officials blew this. They blew it dead. They had the problem with Eichert last week on the snaps. This was the same thing.
Ball, illegal snap, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Oh, they missed it here. The center, as he went to move up, he moved the ball. Eichert moved the ball, and it came out of his hand. I think that this should have been ruled a fumble. It was blown dead immediately, and they threw the flags. But I think that they missed a fumble. Watch Eichert as he comes up to snap it. He makes the snap movement, but the point of the ball, I've had it happen before on grass. The point of the ball was stuck in the grass. That was a snap and a fumble, not an illegal snap penalty.
What a terrible break for Iowa State as they had that ball recovered. Another flanker screen, and this one is incomplete, went right through the hands of the freshman Sterling Shepard. Boy, you're right, Ed. That snap was a fumble. That should have been Iowa State ball.
Well, here you are, 3rd and call it 6. They've been relying, Oklahoma's been relying on the flanker screen. What we have not seen is that flanker screen where the guy blocking takes off and runs a vertical route.
The 2 guys set to the left. And an offset stack to the top of your screen. Jones waiting on a crossing pattern and throws to Stills. He's got it and has a first down just outside the 20. Good protection for Landry Jones. Nobody in his face, and he throws a perfect strike.
And this second half has been good protection pretty much throughout. And you see why Landry Jones, as a prospected quarterback, is looked at, as a 1st-round pick, because when he does have time and he steps into it, he has a gifted arm. That was a good read and a good call by Josh Heupel and the offensive staff. They layered a couple of routes beyond the sticks and a good throw by the quarterback.
He's hit 10 different receivers in this game, 24 out of 34. And there's the fullback, Trey Millard. Runs into Brandon Jensen and stood straight up.
And a lot of people are going to watch this game and say, well, Oklahoma's still struggling in their run game. They haven't been able to get it going, and they have had a lot of turnover, especially in the middle of their offensive line. But I think it would be short-sighted not to talk about this defensive line. They're at their 2nd-string defensive tackles now, and Brandon Jensen and Henry Simon. They go almost 10 deep on this front for Iowa State. So not only good with talent, but they can stay fresh as well.
Defensively, they're 26th in the country in scoring defense, allowing fewer than 20 points a game in the Big 12. That's pretty good. Jones throwing for the end zone, incomplete. There was contact right at the end of that. And Jalen Saunders thought he was interfered with by Dion Broomfield. I thought there was too much contact.
I did too, and this ball lands in a place on the field. I think this is defensive pass interference. I mean, I think that Broomfield right here runs through the receiver. You've got to call that. And, it's like the pass interference that Oklahoma coaches thought was missed against Notre Dame when Te'o makes the interception. I think they were right on that one, and that one I think should have been PI as well.
3rd and long as Iowa State came with a blitz on that last play, trying to get Landry Jones timing off. 4-man rush here, a little bit of pressure for the end zone, tipped and caught. Touchdown, Justin Brown. What a break. Jeremy Reeves reached out and tipped it. The ball spun right into the hands of Justin Brown. That is a tough sequence for Iowa State. They get the center snap fumble that's reversed. The officials blew it dead and called a penalty on it. Then they get a tip pass that results in a touchdown.
The big one was the snap. I think the officials, normally you see an offensive lineman, center, flinch the ball, so you call the illegal snap. But I think that Eichert was actually going to snap that ball. I think he was in the action of it. And this 7 points for Iowa State has to be tough to swallow after that.
That looked like that extra point may have been partially blocked or stubbed on the kick, but it got through. Oklahoma gets a break, and they've extended the lead to 21-6.
College football in high definition is presented by Vizio.
We're back in Ames, Iowa, where Oklahoma leads at 21-6. Remember, that drive was kept alive by Bob Stoops' gamble on 4th down. To go for it, 4th and short in his own territory. And they got a blown officials call that negated a turnover and a tip pass for a touchdown. So a very good sequence for Oklahoma, and that kick's going out of bounds. That is a big mistake. Let's take a look at today's good hands play, brought to you by Allstate.
Well, whose good hands are we talking about here? Because Reed just misses the interception. He couldn't have had better coverage, but doesn't get enough on it. But Justin Brown, that's always hard, changing your focus. You're watching the flight of the ball, but popped up, and Brown gets the catch, and that was on 3rd and long. So if that's not caught, you've got to think that Stoops probably goes for a field goal there, and you'd be at 17. You'd be down a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal instead of 21-6.
56,585 watching this game, the 3rd largest crowd in Iowa State football history. They were really into it in the first half. Now they're going to have to watch their team try to come from behind.
And here goes Iowa State coming back to the line. I think maybe they have the ability to hurry up. I think this might be a good change of pace. Plus, you're down 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. The clock is starting to melt here in the second half. Iowa State, I think they maybe want to pick up the pace a little bit. Seem a little leisurely to me at this point.
Empty backfield for Jantz. Quarterback draw. And he drags a couple of tacklers with him out to the 41-yard line. McFarland and Washington on the tackle for the Sooners. Their offense based on the running game and the short passing game. So a hurry up would fit.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be 3rd and 4 here from the 41-yard line. What they really need to do is sustain a drive, keep their defense off the field for a while. Blitz coming, ascending everybody.
Yeah, I think they're going to get an illegal snap for Farniok.
3rd down.
Could be the first penalty against Iowa State today. What a clean game they've had. Since that Iowa State field goal, 18 plays, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 38 minutes off your watch. Not the scoreboard. Crowd would love to get back in this. They'll need to convert a 3rd and 9 to help. Jantz in trouble. Now he's got some space. Flag is down, and Jantz to the 49-yard line. The flag was thrown in the secondary. It's a gain of 13 and enough for a 1st down pending the penalty.
Big play by Jantz. Because it was a rush
Holding defense, number 9. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run. 1st down.
Well, that's a big penalty. Yeah, the end of the run, because the holding happened during the play, so it's tacked on to the end of the run. Yeah, I would say that Gabe Lynn, well, I would say that was holding on Jarvis West. So you have 10. Big play for Iowa State, though, on the run and the penalty.
Puts them at the Sooners 41. Jantz will keep on the quarterback option, pick up a couple.
And if you're Oklahoma, you're kind of, I think, feeling like what Iowa State did defensively in the first half. This is all about just making Iowa State earn it. We'll bleed this clock out. We're not going to let anybody run by us. So that's one thing I think that Oklahoma's done very well this year. They're better in their back end, especially in their safeties, which is what Mike Stoops coaches. They're much better at filling in and not letting big plays get by them.
White and Woody are in there together. White turns the corner inside the 20. Seen White a couple of times get outside.
And it
looks, Nelson had to make the stop.
You know, it's funny because it's a spread formation, but it just becomes a lead kind of toss play where Woody becomes a lead blocker.
Exactly.
They get the edge immediately, and the running back White never even has to really break stride before he's into the secondary.
Now they'll set up shop at the Oklahoma 19. You just get the feeling they've got to get points out of this drive. End around. 10, 5, diving Jarvis West to the goal line. They'll mark him out at the 2. No, now they say touchdown. One official standing at the 2-yard line. But Jarvis West went right over the pylon.
Well, we already had one earlier in the game on the interception return by Iowa State that was close. No, sir, not even. Good job by West, and he did a good job of cutting back behind Carter Bykowski, the left tackle, who was out blocking.
Arceo for the point after. They bobbled it, but got it down. Good job by the holder, Brett Bucher. And a good job by Iowa State on that drive. They are back in this game at 21-13.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by UPS. Let UPS put the power of logistics to work for you. And Chevy. From kickoff to the last yard, Chevy runs deep.
This is a marvelous new training facility that's getting ready to open here at Iowa State. 152,000 square feet. Bergstrom Football Complex. Strength and conditioning facility, office complex, auditorium, and locker room. It cost him $20.5 million.
Well, let's take a look at a wonderful move by Jarvis West behind the offensive lineman left tackle Carter Bykowski. Watch as Bykowski gets out here in space going one-on-one with Aaron Colvin. Colvin has to freeze for a second, and that little move right there, in and then bouncing out, was terrific. Bykowski doesn't even have to get a block, but I think that Aaron Colvin may get teased a little bit in film because he fell down when West made the move. If West goes to the inside on that play, probably on about the 3-yard line, but because he had Bykowski out there, made that little dip to the inside. Terrific move to finish it towards the pylon.
Finch and Clay are deep. Have a chance to return this one. Clay crossed the 30 to the 31. Here's Robert Flores with an update.
All right, Mike, here's what's happening on SportsCenter right now, brought to you by HP. Florida and Missouri tied at 7 third quarter. Currently on ESPN2, Amarius Hines tied the game at 7 after the Gators trailed at the half. Meantime, Army hasn't won the Commanders-in-Chief Trophy since 1996, but they're up 35-7 on Air Force, and a win today is a good step in ending that drought. Fellas.
Always interesting to watch the service academies in that battle of running wishbone offenses. See how Oklahoma responds. Jones is going to go on the ground to Brennan Clay, and Clay will rip off 13 yards for a first down. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, Jake Knott retires as the 6th leading tackler in Iowa State history, and today he's the assistant to the assistant linebackers coach. How tough is it for you to not be out on the field today?
Oh, it's extremely tough. You know, being a captain for the last 2 years and never missing a game, and then to have to come out here my senior year and miss, it's tough on me, but I'm doing whatever I can to help out.
Tell us what you've been saying to your teammates to try to help them on defense. Some of the little things that you've been picking up on.
Just trying to give them simple terms and concepts that Oklahoma's trying to do against us, and maybe that'll help them go out there and perform a little bit better and get some stops.
Give us an example of something that you've been trying to help somebody like Jeremiah George with.
Well, they're doing a lot of high-low routes, which there's a guy in front and a guy behind, and that's how they've gotten a lot of big plays off of. And so I've just been telling them, take the high one away, make them throw it in front of you, and, you know, rally to it, and we'll make that play instead of getting 15 yards guaranteed.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us. Best of luck from here on out. And guys, Jake Knott got something really special in the mail this week. It was a handwritten letter from Texas coach Mac Brown wishing him well. How about that?
That's something he'll always be able to keep from one of the classiest guys in college football. Deron Neal made that last catch, Janine, and they've got a first down at the 41.
And then there goes Knott putting the headsets right back on. He couldn't get done with that interview fast enough. He wanted to go watch and listen to what's being called. But you heard him talk about playing the deeper ball. That's what Iowa State's plan coming in. It's what Notre Dame did to Oklahoma, and we've already seen it result in 2 interceptions. Let's see if they can get another.
Clay had a lot more success in the second half. Is that offensive line starting to exert its will a little bit?
Well, when you coming into this drive, we were midway through the third quarter, and Oklahoma already had 60 offensive plays, and you see another defender for Iowa State. That's Deion Broomfield with that cast getting up slow.
Clay again trying to break it to the outside. It's a pretty nifty defense. They cover sideline to sideline pretty well.
But you're starting to see those 3- and 4-yard runs from the first half becoming 4-, 5-, 6-, 7-yard runs here in the second half. Because when you go fast, doesn't mean you have to go fast all the time. A lot of what happens is you wear them out in the fourth quarter, the end of the third, into the fourth quarter, and you can do this. You can take your time, and you can start turning into a true run team.
Here's 3rd and short again. They're not going to go to the bulldozer. Landry Jones stays in the ball game. So much more effective than they were at the beginning of the game. Clay again. Boy, it shows you a little power. Just runs right over Jacquez Washington, the safety at 213 pounds, Clay at 201, and he won the battle.
And this is the exact play you would run. Look at everyone coming off the ball. You get a fullback lead by Millard, and you have a guy standing in the hole, but because you have run the ball with speed and power directly at the line of scrimmage, even though there's a guy in the hole, he's catching a chest full of a guy running full speed, not running sideways.
Jones, blitz coming. Jones steps up and throws complete. Got it to his freshman again, Sterling Shepard, down at the 18-yard line. Good job stepping up by Landry Jones.
And this is what scouts are going to want to see. This is a wonderful throw. He doesn't get a time to set his feet. Very accurate. That's not an easy throw. Nicely done. Good job stepping up. That's the one thing Jones will occasionally do, is bail out the pocket to the sides, which is a dangerous place to go. That time, nice job stepping straight forward.
Give it to Clay again. Good block. Clay inside the 10, inside the 5. Touchdown. Ripkowski threw a huge block to open the hole. Ripkowski, the guy you want in front of you, 260.
That's what happens. Yeah,
good answer from Oklahoma.
And that's what happens when you've been chipping away on offense. Even though earlier in the game it wasn't resulting in touchdowns and there was a couple of turnovers, this Iowa State defense has some depth, but that drive right there was just, they've now defended 70 plays on defense, and we're not even into the fourth quarter.
That was Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator, saying, let's take it to them. Good old-fashioned smash-mouth football, and that's exactly what Oklahoma did on that drive. In the third quarter, Clay, 6 carries, 50 yards, and that touchdown nearly untouched to finish it off.
Touchdown, Oklahoma State! Wow, what a run! Touchdown! Can you believe this?
Don't know about you. I've become a very big Kansas State admirer. That's a heck of a football team that Bill Snyder has put together.
But they're running into an Oklahoma State team that has played so much better defensively over the last several weeks. So I'm not sure it's going to be quite the high-scoring affair, because I'm not sure that Oklahoma State is going to be able to put 50 on that Kansas State defense. But
tremendous implications all the way around, not only the Big 12, but what happens in the BCS. Kansas State, of course, right now still in the conversation about a national championship, and deservedly so.
And I love everyone talking about, well, if everyone who's undefeated ends undefeated, then where does Kansas State land? And I say to them, it's not going to happen. 4 teams are not going to be undefeated at the end. So the goal for Kansas State is go undefeated. And I think they're probably in the national championship the way things will shake out.
West a yard deep, and Albert Gray says leave it there. Now let's take a look at this week's BCS standings, brought to you by Discover Card. And Alabama right at the top, Kansas State second, Notre Dame, and then Oregon. And everybody says, well, the computers will favor Oregon down the stretch in that 3-4 battle, move them to third, maybe even second. But the people polls and the I like what I see polls, Alabama and Kansas State right now 1-2.
Remember, Oregon and Notre Dame both play USC. USC not playing great right now, but they still have the players to beat both of those teams. So USC could be in the mix to help determine this.
Jantz has to go back to work and produce more points. And he gets it to Chantrell Johnson, and Chantrell Johnson gets on the perimeter, and he crosses midfield, a gain of 28. Chantrell Johnson really made some noise in this game.
And again, I think Iowa State, you're getting towards the fourth quarter. You're down 15. So I like this. They got a little pace to him.
Johnson again on the read option. He's inside the 45.
This is going to sound like a small thing, but one thing that Oklahoma, looking at them on film, that they do very well, and that's King, who makes the tackle there from his defensive end spot. Their defensive ends on that read zone, where the quarterback is reading the backside defensive end, do exactly what you're supposed to do, which is nothing. Stand there and squeeze that hole. And Oklahoma does that as well as anybody I've seen on tape.
Jantz in trouble, running for his life, throws it away. He's made the good decisions today. He hasn't forced anything when he's been under pressure.
I go back to the story we were telling earlier about how they secluded him this week from the media after last week being in a 3-way competition to get the starting job before the Baylor game. Get it back, we should say. Didn't talk to the media, so Paul Rhodes and the staff kind of put this young man into a cocoon, and he looks on point today. I can't remember really any bad decisions. The ball's gotten out of his hands very quickly. He's played pretty well.
Well, he had 36 completions, 381 yards, and 5 touchdown passes against Baylor. Of course, the Baylor defense is good for what ails you. Jantz throws the out this time, and there was a miscommunication on that. Young hooked up, and Jantz thought he was going to continue toward the sideline.
Well, and you would assume on that 3rd and long, and now I think Iowa State, well, it's 4th and 7. I just think you punt this thing away. I think Oklahoma scores. I think you may be packing your bags, unfortunately. I understand why they're punting it. I'm just not so sure if Oklahoma, especially the way they ran the ball the last time, they may milk this into the middle of the 4th quarter and get a touchdown out of it.
Yeah, if you're Iowa State, you may be running out of opportunities. And this is Vanderkamp. He lets this one go, and it goes into the end zone. That's highly unusual for him. Only the 2nd touchback he's had all year. Normally, he is the expert at pinning you inside the 10. And a tip of the cap to Landry Jones, because he has moved up further in elite company among the FBS all-time passing leaders.
And of course, past one of the great recent names, Kellen Moore, with 14,723 yards. And if you look at all of those years, for the years that these guys played, it tells you something about what's happened to offense since the turn of the century. It's unbelievable how dynamic these offenses. What's happening in college football is offenses are proving that with 11 guys, you cannot defend a field that's 100 yards long and 53.5 yards
That's
wide.
right.
It's just impossible.
You go back and take a look at some of the great names in the history of college football quarterbacks. As Jones airs one out, underthrown and almost intercepted, still stopped.
And Shaquez Washington wanted pass interference on Kenny Stills, and he should have gotten it, frankly. Stills was called for offensive pass interference against Notre Dame, and he should have been called for it here. Stills clearly pushing on the back of Washington. And give Stills credit. He knew that this ball was underthrown poorly. It was not a great throw, so go play defense, and Washington's right. He should have gotten that call.
And it's not like it was congested over the middle with six or seven guys there. It was out for everybody to see right in the middle of the field. They just missed it.
If Stills could have grabbed his jersey, he would have.
Jones will go back and throwing again. A perfect strike that time to Sterling Shepard. What a throw, what a catch.
And it looks to me like Deion Broomfield came down a little funny. He landed, I think, potentially on that right arm, but boy, did Landry Jones fit this ball in.
And Broomfield was right there.
Oh boy, I think Broomfield landed on that casted arm. It slammed down onto the ground. And unfortunately, remember Jansen Watson, who was hurt earlier in the game. I think things starting to get a little thin in the secondary for Iowa State. What a bummer for the Cyclones, especially with Landry Jones finally looking like he's found a nice rhythm in this game.
To finish my point, you go back and look at some of the greatest quarterbacks who ever played college or professional football and look at the numbers they had during their junior and senior seasons. They wouldn't be in the top 50 of college quarterbacks today because the game has changed that much.
I think a couple of them could probably play in these systems, though, don't you?
I think so. Jones with good time throws too high. The first name that comes to mind, once you put Dan Marino in Oregon's spread offense, and see if he can throw for 10,000 yards in a year.
Well, people talk about, are they a system quarterback? And that's one of the things that Landry Jones is going to deal with a little bit when he starts getting broken down by the scouts is all of these numbers and you know, with winning his quarterback at Oklahoma, a lot of that you can say has to do with the type of offense they run, because he's got great numbers, but there are times like on that throw there you say, wait a minute, he should be able to make that throw.
2nd and 10, Oklahoma at its own 46. Clay. When you're right, what was maybe a 2 or 3 yard run in the first half, now extending itself. That was 8. Same place, same guys. They're just wearing them down.
And what you find as an offensive lineman, when you go to block a guy in the first quarter, he fights you with everything he's got. There's more energy. And now it's more, okay, I just can't get knocked over here. I've got to stay on my feet, so you can finish the block a little harder in the 3rd and 4th quarter.
That's the end of the 3rd quarter. This presentation of college football presented by Kay Jewelers will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. NASCAR's chase down to 3 races. Jimmy Johnson leading the closest race in chase history, heading to the Lone Star State. The NASCAR chase for the Sprint Cup Series at Texas tomorrow at 2 on ESPN. Johnson with his 2nd straight pole.
Well, it's almost like a race car, this Oklahoma offense. They are on pace offensively to run 96 plays and end up with 680 yards. You take those 2 turnovers off, it's, you know, you're in your 40 points here. Iowa State's done well, but it's starting to take hold here.
Which makes it understandable that that defense is going to tire out
Absolutely.
in the 2nd half, and the 2-yard runs become 8-yard runs.
That's a ton of. The NFL average is about 65 plays a game. That's another half a game that this Iowa State defense has to play with them.
Clay. Now, no room that time. He's going to lose a yard. Stuffed by Jeremiah George, the new middle linebacker.
Boy, George is a really good player. You know, everyone talked about it, but watch him run around the wash of the blocks and not just get clean so that he can make the tackle, but get his body in a position to make a physical tackle. He stopped Clay dead in his tracks, and all of a sudden Oklahoma, which looked like they may have been getting some momentum, now has to punt it away.
4th down, Tress Way comes on to kick to Aaron Horn. Lets it go. What a bounce. Down inside the 2.
Well, this ball, Tress Way gets a little lucky because it lands on the point. Remember, we were talking about Vanderkamp trying to get that thing to go sideways. That hits the line. They're going to have to review this. If it breaks the plane in college football, it's a touchback. And it did look close to me. That ball looks, well, we're going to, yeah, the crowd now seeing it on the Jumbotron, but this ball to me.
And any part of the ball touching the line
so
is breaking the play.
Correct. Yeah, they'll get this right. Well, and if you see.
The ruling on the field is down on the 1. The previous play is under further review.
And it looks, whoa, boy.
that may be another one where you say, you know, how can you overturn it?
Naked eye when it happened, I thought that hit the line, but you can see the official right here, the line judge, who's not on the pylon, but the back judge has perfect position to make this call. And a lot of times that line judge comes off the pylon so he can see if anybody ran out of bounds. But the back judge had perfect position. I think the ball hits the line, but think doesn't matter. It has to be indisputable video evidence, and I think that they're going to have to say this ball is on the 6-inch line for Iowa State.
I do too. Yeah. I don't see how you can overturn it. Yeah. Again, you have to have undisputed or indisputable video evidence to overturn a call.
The ruling on the field stands. First down.
Again, not confirmed, stand. And so that's twice today that the officials upstairs have done a nice job of, you may think the guy stepped out of bounds. You may think the ball hit the line, but we can't tell, so we can't overturn it.
Well, it's an offense you're never going to be asked to go further than Iowa State is right now.
Any further and the ball would be set in the end zone. It'd be a safety already. Well, they actually gave him a break and put it on the 1. This should be on about the half-yard line.
For some reason, they have always done that on balls inside the goal line. They go to the 1. That pass took a little time to get out there to Bundridge. He did get out to near the 7-yard line, but Hurst was closing quickly.
And that's a good call. Just get away from it. When a bad thing happens at the goal line, a holding, something like that, it's a safety. So get yourself a little breathing room here.
Woody is the tailback. They'll send him out in the flat and throw to him. Nice catch as the ball was down around his ankles, so he had to stop to make the grab, and Frank Shannon, who's been getting more playing time at linebacker, made the tackle. If he hits him in stride, he's got a chance to get a few yards out of that.
Yeah, I think that Woody would have had an edge that time on Shannon. Shannon doing a nice job in the open field with the tackle. But we have seen Oklahoma run some crossing routes beyond the sticks. Maybe this is a chance for Iowa State to put somebody in front of Jantz at about 7 yards.
They need to reach just shy of the 11-yard line for a first down. Jantz retreats into the end zone, throws underneath. That's going to be incomplete. That was a big hit from Tony Jefferson, the free safety.
Well, and it's an illegal hit. By the definition of the rule, this is targeting. And I know it's hard and people want to talk about the physical part of the game. But watch as Jefferson comes in and he drops his head and makes helmet-to-helmet contact. There's 2 different ways that you can target. You can target anywhere on the bottom anywhere on the body with the top of your helmet. But if you go at the shoulders or above with any part of your body, the elbow, your head, anything, that's targeting. That was a missed penalty.
Vanderkamp, a sky-high punt and a late fair catch signal. We'll give it to Oklahoma at the 48-yard line after a 46-yard punt. Haven't seen a better kicker than Kirby Vanderkamp. Time to take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. And Oklahoma starting to rack up the numbers. Landry Jones, 361 yards passing. Clay now with a career-high 115 yards as he takes over for the injured Damian Williams at tailback. And Brown, 107 yards receiving. The Penn State transfer who has made an impact here at Oklahoma. And the running game only took off in the second half. Jones with time wants to go out in the flat to Clay. Breaks the tackle. And this is the territory where you don't lose. 29-0 coming in. This would be the 30th time under Bob Stoops with a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver. And that little innocuous-looking swing pass gained 4.
Yeah. This offense just keeps. It's been impressive for many years. Remember, Mike Leach came in here, Mark Mangino, when they first got here, this staff to Oklahoma. And it goes back to Bob Stoops' days at the University of Florida. You remember Tim Couch when he was at Kentucky?
Oh, yeah.
Bob Stoops was defensive coordinator at Florida before he got this job. And, of course, Mike Leach was at Kentucky. And when Bob Stoops got the job in Oklahoma, he said, I want that guy to run my offense because I hated to defend it while he was at Kentucky. And here we are with Bob Stoops about to go 30-0 when a receiver and a runner get 100 yards. That's because this is the offense he wanted from day one.
Most of it coming out of the Hal Mummy system.
The Hal Mummy and Mike Leach used to drive around the country and just talk to coaches everywhere.
False, sir.
The officials
Off,
only
number
blew
30
that play dead after the players
First down.
stopped. It was obviously a false start by Trey Millard, the fullback. But about half the players went ahead with the play and the other half stopped, and eventually somebody blew a whistle.
Some great stories when Bob Stoops took over at Oklahoma, and he just very quickly put together a really good staff. Got a guy named Bobby Jack Wright, who now coaches defensive ends, to go start hammering in Texas to recruit guys. But some of the long nights talking about football with Mike Leach, they have some great stories.
Clay has had a huge second half, got a good block from Millard. Well, can you go wrong in college football if you hire an assistant coach named Bobby Jack?
No, not if you're going to recruit Texas. And
no.
That's the one thing. Oklahoma is a state not unlike Iowa State. There's a look at Bobby Jack Wright, one of the best recruiters in the business, just a very personable guy, has great relationships in the state of Texas. But Oklahoma, like Iowa, not a very populous state. So right. Iowa State, unfortunately, aims a little further away from population bases. But for Oklahoma, it's 3 hours down into Texas to that Dallas-Fort Worth area, where 300 or 400 Division I players come out per year. Not too far from Houston, where 400 Division I players come out per year. So Bob Stoops immediately knew if you're at Oklahoma, of course, with the history here, a lot of players out of Texas, and that's what they started doing.
Jones with a full house backfield here. Fakes to Clay. Stills, touchdown. Kenny Stills runs a great route, beats Cliff Stokes for the second time in that corner. And he's a big target at 6'1", 190, and he makes himself bigger.
Good timing, good body control. This one was a really nice throw by Landry Jones. You know, we've been a little nitpicky on Jones today. He's an NFL prospect, so you have to start talking about looking at him and saying, what are the scouts going to look at? But when the timing starts coming along, and I think you have to be fair to Jones about how difficult that was earlier in the year with all the guys who got run off the team.
That's right.
You had Saunders was not eligible yet. Stills was playing out of position.
Justin Brown was brand new.
Yeah. So I think you have to be very understanding, because when this guy gets it going, meaning Jones, he's pretty good. And now that Stills back in his outside receiving position, they have their foot on the gas.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K. And Dr. Pepper. Tell the world what makes you one of a kind with the I'm a hashtag on Twitter.
There's a virtual reality application center here at Iowa State. You got to be pretty smart to do this stuff. And trying to find out how products can be used in the real world, how to make them better, how to improve their usage. You got to be smart to be a football coach too, especially if you're on defense, because offenses have morphed into something very dangerous.
And one of our passions is asking defensive coaches, how do you defend this new offense? And how many answers have we heard this year? Well, you need 4 defensive linemen, play man coverage. Well, right. You need 2 defensive line, you play 8 deep. And I think that Mike Stoops has done a wonderful job of taking the personnel that was here when he came back and developing a defense that's awfully solid.
West muffs it and will take a knee.
And one of the things that when you talk about forcing interceptions, they happen on 3 levels. often. This is Casey Walker against Seth Dagey in Texas Tech. Gets a little bit of pressure here, so the ball's going to float enough that the safety, Javon Harris, has his eyes on the quarterback, and he has squatted reading it. Very tight coverage by Aaron Colvin causes the ball to go up in the air. So there's 3 levels at work there that cause the interception. A little bit of pressure up front, great coverage from your corner, and then it's all about the safeties. And I think Mike Stoops, his specialty is teaching safeties where to stand, how to train your eyes, don't see ghosts, don't chase things that aren't there, and that was a great example of that.
This is his second tour of duty here after going to Arizona as the head coach. That didn't work, and he came back and replaced Brent Venables, who replaced him. And then Venables, of course, has gone on to be one of the highest paid coordinators in college football at Clemson.
And I think something that could have been a strange situation, because Brent Venables was a longtime assistant and Mike Stoops was out there, and a great coach, whether he's related to Bob or not. I think he's a guy who would have been hired at some huge program as a defensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
So it actually, I think, worked out really well for both Stoops and Venables. Mike Stoops says.
Jantz, pump fake, now scrambles. With room to run, and Steele Jantz across the 35 to about the 37. You check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, and don't forget, guys, there's another Stoops, Mark Stoops, their brother, who's the defensive coordinator at Florida State. And Mike was telling us that he and Mark are very close, and they have similar styles with their defenses. And he says that they'll watch each other's games, and he said he'll coach along and yell at his TV watching one of Florida State's games. And he said their mom, Dee Dee, has it the worst, though. When they were at 3 different schools, the Stoops brothers, he said our poor mom would sometimes sit through 10 hours of family anguish.
Janine, that's because they were in 3 different time zones. So she would start watching a noon game, then one at 3:30 and one at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I mean, that's torture.
And make no mistake, the Stoops family are a bunch of football nerds.
Oh,
they really are. What Mike and Mark talk about is where they stand, where the cornerbacks stand. Inside, are they going to line up on the inside eye of the receiver or the outside eye receiver? They're constantly trying to change. They play a lot of man coverage, where they line up, where their help is, but they get into very detailed discussions. A lot of times coaches just talk about, hey, how you doing? You're doing okay. These 2 guys get into the detail of exactly how they're playing certain defenses.
Jantz with time, steps into the throw, and a beauty to Chris Young. I love Steele Jantz's name. And the family is famous for first names for the males. His father's named Fox. His uncle is named Truck, T-R-U-K. His brother is named Wolf. It's all right till you name one of them Rosemary, and they got to fight every day in grade school.
I'd want Iron.
Ironwood
if I was in that family.
But don't you have to live up to that name? Got to be tough.
Yeah, you do kind of set someone up.
Second down, call it 3. Boy, Jantz has played really well today. That one is lofted. A lot of contact at the sideline. The Iowa State crowd didn't care for it. The coaching staff on the sideline really upset. You cannot impede a receiver's route.
Yeah, that looked like that might have been PI, but this is just a straight bull rush by Jordan Phillips, the freshman, working one-on-one with the right guard Jacob Gannon. But because of an offensive lineman falling in Jantz's lap, that ball, I think, floated a little bit on him.
They need to reach the 42-yard line for a first down. Blitz coming on Jantz, throws too high. The rush got to him that time off Young's hands. Frank Shannon, playing in the middle in place of Tom Wart in this series, got pressure, and this has got to be 4-down territory.
Yeah, and that's the second time on that route, but that it looked like Jantz and the receiver were not synced up.
Yeah.
Where Jantz thinks it's going to be a route closer to running to the sideline, and the receiver stops short.
To keep the sticks moving, they go for it on 4th down. And Jantz rifles that one in there to Chris Young.
And Tony Jefferson gets really lucky. He's the deep safety. He's at about 25 yards. And he's the guy who, when they hit this, has to make the tackle. He almost misses the tackle because he goes in with his head down with the wrong shoulder, and instead of wrapping up, we saw earlier him leading with his head. When you're that safety, you can get run over. Just don't go in there and miss the tackle. That was close to a missed tackle by Jefferson.
They moved early. That'll cost Iowa State 5.
Penalty. Still first down.
You know, that's part of, I think, what's lost in this safety issue about hitting with your head. Part of the problem is it's bad tackling technique to lead with your head.
Sure.
When you have to wrap someone up, if you're leading with your head, your arms don't extend as long. It's not as natural to do that. So as you go in with your head up, you can wrap the arms around. You have a better chance to move your feet, like if you're playing basketball, you're playing defense in basketball. So there's a technique element to this beyond the safety.
But that kill shot with your head has become so glorified.
We show it all the time on sports.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And we don't mention that it's a penalty.
Jantz got away, throws over the middle. There's a big hit, but the ball came loose, or did it? Is it a catch or not? Josh Lenz. The officials talking it over now. They say incomplete, and Jefferson, the guy with the big hit.
And I got to tell you that my naked eye said that this was a legal hit by Jefferson. Let's see, is it his shoulder or his helmet, and does he leave his feet and launch into the player? I don't think that's an illegal hit. I think that's a very clean hit by Jefferson. Nice and slow here. He did not go above the shoulder. His helmet did not lead into the player. That was a clean breakup of that. And you could see he's on better balance because his head wasn't dropped as much as the play before.
Now, Iowa State, there's a flag down. I thought Iowa State was going to take a timeout, but there may have been a flag before or at the same time.
But you do see how difficult that call is to make, because on that one, that to me, that's not, if you slow that down, that's not an illegal hit.
Timeout. Iowa State, first charge of the half. Full.
But earlier when you saw Jefferson go in, again, we're watching it frame by frame, high definition, and we're saying, nope, it was above the head, his head was down. That one, you could see he was leading with his shoulder. He did not launch and leave his feet, and his target was below the shoulder of the receiver.
Right.
So, again, it's such a difficult thing to call, but that time Jefferson had a nice hit.
All right, here's an update. Robert Flores when we come back. And we've got a timeout here, 8:05 to go.
I'm Robert Flores with his AT&T All-America Player of the Week nominee. It is Texas A&M quarterback Johnny Manziel. He has just absolutely torched Mississippi State. 300 plus through the air, 100 plus on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. You can text VOTE to 34763. Guy, that's too bad we won't see Texas A&M and Kansas State in the regular season this year.
Boy, you're absolutely right. Wouldn't that be a show? Now, there's some great quarterbacks out there running some really high-power offenses. .805 to go in this game. Iowa State trailing 35-13. Into the 2nd and 5. They need to get just inside the 30 for a first down. 4-man rush. Jantz completes it to Bundridge. And Bundridge gets to the 24-yard line for a first down and stops the clock. Excuse me, they need to hit the 20 for a first down, so it's going to be 3rd and 4.
You're down 3 scores, 8 minutes left. You get a quick one. The way Oklahoma's been playing offensively, you may have to try an onside kick here if you got a score, I think.
Good throw by Jantz. Boy, did he step into that baby and hit Lenz.
You know, we were talking to Courtney Messingham, the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, first year, replacing Tom Herman, who moved on to Ohio State with Urban Meyer. And this young man has ability. He said, the only thing we fight is sometimes he tries to be too perfect. Sometimes he tries to create the run game for himself. But this young man does have some talent. And you saw it right there.
Started the first 4 games and then had a bad performance against Texas Tech with 3 interceptions and just throws that one away. There's a good decision because he had the big guy Stacy McGee right in his face.
Well, they were trying to set up a wide receiver fake screen where the guy who was blocking was going to run a route, and Oklahoma had it covered. It's a one-man route. It either works or it doesn't, so Jance just do it in the stands. I'm impressed with this Oklahoma defense.
They have been sharp.
They do not get out of position.
That will be complete near the 15-yard line. And Aaron Horn, who was the leading receiver coming in for this ball club with 34 catches, makes his first of the day. He had been shut out until now.
But look on the backside, one-on-one, Chris Young, and Colvin fell down, and Jance had come off on it. That was a touchdown. And again, a quarterback's looking to his read. His read was to the right, but if he'd have just peeked to that side, he'd have seen Colvin falling, and maybe would have gotten an easy one.
They run the slant this time down to the 1-yard line. Another perfect throw to Lenz.
That's a nice catch by Lenz.
Yes.
We've seen a bunch of drops today for Iowa State, but Lenz, who's been battling a thigh bruise, did not play the last couple of weeks. We saw him have a drop earlier, but this one you see he's clearly the most gifted receiver for Iowa State.
Chantrell Johnson, late call touchdown. Previous catch, by the way, was Gray instead of Lenz, 18 instead of 19. But Chantrell Johnson, with a great second effort, finishes off the drive.
And you're going to need, at some point, a 2-point conversion in here, but I agree, you go for the one here. The question becomes, are you going to do the onside kick after this score?
Well, you still be down 2 scores with 6:32 to go. Oklahoma doesn't look like they're going to be giving up the football anytime soon. You might have to gamble right here. Monday Night Football on ESPN. First at 6:30. Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's, and at 8:30. Backs to the wall. Michael Vick and the Eagles travel to New Orleans to take on Drew Brees and a Saints team that's fighting to save its season. Monday Night Football, 8:30 on ESPN. Lined up for an onside kick. Down by 2 scores, do or die. And recovered by Oklahoma at the 35. They gave it a shot.
I love that. That was such a smart misdirection. In college football, you can't put everybody over to one side. So Iowa State shifted everyone to the right. You assumed Arceo was going to kick it on the top, but instead he scoops it over to the left where the 4 guys to that side had a chance. That's a pretty good try right there by Iowa State.
Well designed. Trey McTwire made the recovery for Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma nearly, watch Oklahoma, they start to shift, and then all of a sudden the guys over there realize, wait a minute, we've got to stay back. But watch this kick. It's just perfectly executed. If that ball is not cleanly grabbed by the Oklahoma player, Matoyer, that ball bounces around and Iowa State has a chance to get it. I like that.
Had great spin on it. Clay. And now if you're Iowa State, you got to sell out on defense against the run. Here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, more football coming up on ABC. Most of you will see number 20 Nebraska visit Michigan State. Spartans have lost 3 of their last 4 games at Spartan Stadium after a 15-game home winning streak. Others will see number 23 Texas visiting Lubbock to take on number 18 Texas Tech. Red Raiders going to be rocking some pretty cool alternate uniforms in that game. Guys?
All right, thanks, Robert. And the clock just ticking down inexorably here at Ames. Under 6 minutes. And Oklahoma, the master of the hurry-up offense, in no hurry at all. Trey Millard.
Yeah, right now, Oklahoma, for some reason, deciding to run outside. They were pounding the ball in the 3rd quarter between the tackles. And even though the clock will restart after Millard ran out of bounds, if you stay in bounds, that's 7 or 8 seconds that run off the clock. And I know you're up 15, but weird things happen in this game with turnovers, fumbles returned for touchdowns. Every second for both of these teams really matters at this point.
If you're Iowa State, hope remains alive if you can get a stop here. And they're going to force Jones to throw. And that's going to be a delay of game or a timeout, Oklahoma. And
Delay
they'll
game.
give Oklahoma the
Offense,
timeout.
5-yard penalty, still third down.
No, one official signaled timeout. The back judge on this side, but the referee said it was a penalty. National championship hopes on the line tonight in the Big 12. Colin Klein and number 2 Kansas State will host number 24 Oklahoma State. Might be a lot of points in that game. Saturday Night Football presented by Windows 8 tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC. What gets lost sometimes in the Big 12 is defensive effort. Kansas State has a really good defensive team.
And the strength of Colin Klein in the passing game. Last year, it was a liability. Obviously a great runner. He still doesn't look like Dan Marino when he throws it. But watch tonight the accuracy of Colin Klein. It's his improvement in the passing game from last year to this year is just staggering.
It was the timeout for Oklahoma. Still 3rd and long. Landry Jones with 4 wide receivers and Brendan Clay in the backfield with it. 3-man rush. Jones going to take off. Now his knee went down short of the sticks.
Yeah, this is, you got to have a senior quarterback who knows where he's got to get, because there was an immediate threat. You want guys sliding. They don't need to be taking a hit, but you expect your senior quarterback not to start sliding through 2 yards before. Boy, that's, talk about keeping a team in the game. You played well in the second half, and just little tiny mistakes by Oklahoma allowing Iowa State to hang around.
That was his longest run of the year. It's the first time he's had positive yardage on a run all season, and he slides a ½ yard short of the first down.
You have to know where that is. You have to know where you're getting to keep the chains moving, keep the clock going.
Clock stops at the 5:02 mark as Iowa State used a timeout.
Well, that's a wasted timeout in a game where you're down a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. You're burning a timeout here?
Because the clock will stop on a change of possession, although they do stop the clock running before the kick.
Yeah.
So one way or another, you're going to save 35 seconds.
Yeah.
This kick is out of bounds. Not a good kick at all.
I just
check in with Janine.
Well, guys, regardless of what's on the scoreboard, the most inspiring number today is 50. That's the number of Austin Woods, who plays for Oklahoma. He's been battling Hodgkin's lymphoma since the spring. He told me he went through 12 rounds of chemo. That's 4 months worth. He said the toughest thing was just the mental aspect of trying to deal with the fatigue. And just on Wednesday, he tweeted the news that after his latest scan, he is officially in remission. He's been an inspiration to his team and the entire community.
Well, what kind of guts does it take to go through that and stay on the field? Our congratulations to him, and that's a wonderful story. Complete pass to Bundridge, and Jefferson makes a tackle. Obviously, they're going to be in a hurry-up mode now with 4:41 left. And Oklahoma will give you all the 5, 6, 7-yard throws you want. This will bring up a 3rd and about 5.
And I think at some point, Iowa State, even though the safeties for Oklahoma are starting to play at 20, 25 yards, I still think you want something that challenges them, and then a 15 or 20-yard route underneath. You need to start getting chunks if you're Iowa State.
Back shoulder throw, tipped and caught. Flag is down. Now we got to check out the penalty. Bundridge made an outstanding play. It's a gain of 24 yards. But who committed the interference?
Colvin was all over that ball.
Aaron Colvin, the junior who moved from strong safety, has been such a terrific corner, covering the redshirt freshman Quentin Bundridge. The officials still haven't sorted it out.
Holding defense number 14, penalties declined. Pass defense number 14, penalties declined. First down.
Well, it was good coverage because he held and he interfered. But Bundridge and Colvin going up, both fighting for this ball.
That's great concentration by the redshirt freshman.
Well, Justin Brown got one of those in the end zone earlier for Oklahoma, so that's probably equaling that out.
Blitz coming. And Steele Jantz just had to get rid of that one.
Perfectly timed blitz call by Mike Stoops. Starting to see that Iowa State's going to start stretching the field a little bit with the throwing game, because if they're doing all short intermediate throws, you call a blitz, it's wasted because you'll never get there. But now that Mike Stoops, who has a wonderful feel for what offenses are trying to do, feels Iowa State, okay, they're going to throw the ball farther, well then we can bring the blitz.
Clock at 3:50. Four-man rush this time. That ball hung up a long time. And here's another flag. I think that's going to be on Lynn, who was all over Jarvis West.
Pass interference. Defense number 9. First down.
All of the sudden, Oklahoma looked like they had the foot on the gas and they were headed back to Norman. And Landry Jones, a senior quarterback, slides a yard short, and all of a sudden Oklahoma looks like, wait, oh, you mean we have to finish this game? We didn't know that was part of the deal.
The bus hasn't gotten to the off-ramp yet.
No. And the other thing you start to see is Iowa State's a legitimate squad. These guys can play. They don't give up.
From the 42, Jantz quarterback draw. He can run, but he's not going to go for 50 on anybody.
And that clock is just starting to melt. If you're Iowa State, of course, you're going to go for an onside kick again if you score, but you do want to save some of it.
Delayed blitz coming. Jantz throws, and this one is going to be intercepted. Picked off by Tony Jefferson, the leader in the secondary, as Jantz overthrew that pass, and Jefferson kills the threat.
Well, this is Chris Young. We've seen a couple of times where it looked like Jantz and he were on. Well, no, I just think that was excellent coverage by DeMontre Hurst. I think Hurst pushed Young completely off of his route, which let the free safety come over. And I believe they're going to see that Jefferson stepped out of bounds before this return. Right there. And I think that's the perfect one where you can say, yes, he actually did step out of bounds. Maybe a blade or two of white grass, but.
Well, this may take a while because not only are they going to have to reverse the call, they're going to have to look at several angles and see exactly where he did step out of bounds. So in the meantime, we'll check in with Robert Flores.
Hey, Mike, check out the end of the Missouri-Florida game. Tigers driving for a potential game-tying score, but James Franklin picked off in the end zone by Josh Evans. Florida trailed 7-0 at the half. They score 14 unanswered to win 14-7 over the Tigers.
Boy, the Gators defense has been their calling card. They have been sensational. Their only question is, can they score enough to beat some of the teams they have to play?
And Missouri finding out what it's like to go play in the SEC East instead of the Big 12. And no, not a knock against the Big 12, a fine conference and as strong as it gets. But
during the return, the runner stepped out of bounds at the 17-yard line. To 3:21.
Well, to my mind, the Big 12 is the second best conference in the country.
Yep.
But the SEC, by anybody's standards, because you've got Alabama at the top, and the rest of them are just so darn good.
Well, I think a lot of this. And for Oklahoma, we were talking at the top of the show about the BCS, and got a couple of tough ones left there. I think they probably win pretty easily against Baylor. Baylor's struggling defensively this year. But you got to travel a long way to West Virginia. Then you get Bedlam with Oklahoma State. So they can't afford to lose again if they want to be packing their bags for a BCS bowl.
Landry Jones will take over from the 27. Ball's loose, still loose. And Jones had to dive in there to get it. They have had snap issues, haven't they?
Yeah, and this is the exact same thing that we saw in the ball game against Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. We saw it earlier when Gabe Eichert got away with a little bit of a snap that came out of his hand, but this one just gets stuck in the grass. Again, I played the position center for many years, and when you play on grass, if you put a little bit of weight on that ball so you can move forward, it gets stuck in the ground, and I think that's what's happening to Eichert.
Brendan Clay, the tailback, already with a career high. Great second half. And he's going to get as many carries as he can handle down the stretch here. Got a great block on the corner, gets outside the 20. Uses his stiff arm to get up to the 24. And Trey McTwire, number 17, was the guy who threw him a neat block to get outside.
But he led with his head, and you can see him shaking. He got up really slow. He got a knockout block. But, you know, this is one of the things, if you watch on the left side of your screen, you watch 17 come across as Clay goes to break it right there, and he led with his head. It's just what we showed earlier with Jefferson. These guys, it's a technique thing, it's a safety thing, but McTwire did not look like he was completely healthy after that play.
And 3rd and about 3 with the clock running, under 2 minutes to go. Clay again. Got a first down to the 32-yard line.
Well, with Damian Williams, who had burst onto the scene as the starting running back for the Oklahoma Sooners, out with an ankle injury, it's all been about Brennan Clay. Early on, it looked like Oklahoma was going to have the same problem they did against Notre Dame, where they couldn't run the ball. But in the 3rd quarter, Clay began to take over. Between the tackles became, instead of 2-yard runs, started becoming 3-4-yard runs. And this young man has a tremendous career high today on the road against, let's not forget, a very
defense.
Yes, a very good Iowa State defense.
And a defense that's been very good against the run. Oklahoma averaging 173 yards a game. Clay has 151 by himself before this run.
He seems to have gotten more into the flow, too. He
Sure
looks more comfortable. A little tentative. He's starting to jump over people, find those holes, get big chunks of yards.
Well, you know, as an offensive lineman, when that line starts to command that line of scrimmage and get a push, it is a much easier job for a tailback because he can find those holes a little bit, a couple of yards downfield. Not a bad day for Landry Jones either, as he becomes the 5th all-time passer in the history of college football and in the FBS division. And that'll do it.
And Paul Rhodes will go to Texas next week, still one short of bowl eligibility. But this is a team that will play in a bowl and will give whoever they play in the bowl everything they want. This is no longer one of those teams you think, oh, what a nice, this is a good program.
Yeah, he is really building something very good here.
And I think a real quality win for Oklahoma. A tough loss at home against Notre Dame. A lot of emotion. They come back against a good opponent and play well enough to win.
Well, they had to bounce back. They had to play against a tough Iowa State team on the road, and they did just that, and they come away with a big victory. Once again, our final score here in Ames, Iowa, Oklahoma 35, Iowa State 20. Fred Cunningham and Janine Edwards and our entire crew here in Ames, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for regional football after this message and a word from our ABC stations.